Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La da 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 dee. Da 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 da. Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La da 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 dee. Da 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 da.
Not unmuted ourselves. We have done it again. We did not unmute ourselves before we started talking. Incredible start to another stream. All right, we are back for another Mitch on the Mic stream. For some reason, we are exorbitantly large at the moment. Let's try and fix that. Way too small. Sooner or later, there we go. We'll work the buttons out one day. Probably not, because I don't have enough time on my hands for that. So, first of all, thank you very much for jumping on in, guys. We've got a couple of things to cover tonight. Not going to be a super duper long stream. We've already got Andrew Foord ready to go after we have an interview with Jeno. And so things we're going to cover tonight. First of all, we're going to start off with the charges side of things. So we've got a big upcoming event, the Truck and Outlaw event. We're going to run through a lot of that. The heaps of things to cover for that event coming up in about 2 weeks from now. So we're going to have a good chat with Jeno about everything to do with the charges, the truck event, that sort of side of things. Following on from that, we're going to be talking about the Nationals, the 8-scale Nationals that was wrapped up from down at Southern Districts Model Car Club. It's an awesome event down there. Any questions you have on that sort of side of things, if you can't watch the whole stream, chuck them in now. I'll cover them pretty much once we get to that segment. Nonetheless, before we do anything else, we're going to introduce Jeno. Jeno is patiently waiting here, ready to go. We'll get him on up here. Mr. Jensen Spencer. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, Mitch. How are you?
Yeah, real good, mate. And I got to say, before we go into anything RC related, your time management skills is incredible. So I said 5:30, I want you on. Literally 5:30 came around, bam, popped up, ready to go.
I live in a world of virtual meetings, mate. So I've learned to become pretty disciplined with it all. So, and I just wanted to make sure it was working because I've done these things before and kind of text let you down and you're kind of fumbling around. I've got backup devices here and everything in case this one wasn't working. So thought I'd be punctual.
Yeah, well, I managed to mess up the usual times when it comes to Adelaide and stuff. So I had a chat with Andrew Foord for the last about 20 minutes because I really don't understand Australian time systems.
Good news is we align back with the southern states.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Sunday. So if we had done this a week later, we would all have had the same time. Other than Adelaide, it would be obviously half an hour.
Yeah. I'm always confused the fact that they're an hour ahead, not an hour behind, but it doesn't seem right. Anyway, that's just my perception. All right, Mr. Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
We have got a fair bit to cover here when it comes to the upcoming race at Chargers RC. First of all, before we kick anything off, I would like you to introduce yourself. I know we've had you on the stream before for a brief stream, probably almost a year ago now, I'd say, when I was originally running, I think, my phone setup before Chargers actually got involved and really helped me out with that. So introduce yourself, Jeno, and so on and so forth.
So my real name is Jensen Spencer. So I'm originally from Victoria and from the age of sort of 13 in the old Tamiya, that Tamiya, Hornets, Hot Shots, Foxes, all that sort of stuff is where it started for me. And I was lucky enough to be part of what is now the Keilor, or Kiorka back then, Keilor Electric Car Association. And kind of did and raced, I don't know, until about 1990. So 5-6 years or something, I kind of raced competitively, got to do all the states and stuff we're doing now. And back then there was a lot more regional racing. Every country town had a track. I'm talking 110 here, 110 off-road. I think 1.8 was that popular back then. I can't remember it anyway. And then sort of got my license, life priorities change. And then just before COVID hit, it was actually, I think, 2019, I saw something pop up on my YouTube channel, which was a re-release Kyosho Ultima with Joel Johnson driving it. It was not the latest JJ, but the Kyosho started releasing their cars, and I just had, that was such a big part of my childhood. I should get one, so I ended up getting one, and I just started looking for the local track, and Gopal at the time responded and said, "Hey, come to the track and check it out." So I did. Threw it on the track, and Jordan Cosick was there practicing, and he said, "Yeah, how drive of a modern one?" And it was his B741, I think, back then, and drove that and just went, "Oh my god!" So went out and bought one of those, and then since then got into all sorts of things, RC, and been on the committee now for a few years in all different roles. And probably, I'm at the age where I can give back a little bit. Back then, when I was a teenager, probably took a little bit for granted the effort that it does take to run a club. And obviously, I sat back and enjoyed it as a kid and didn't probably appreciate it as much as I do now. But look, I'm in a position where I can now give back and try and, it's hard work, and giving previous people that have done it a bit of a break, and a fresh group sort of coming in. And as it turns out, we've just got this cracking group of blokes that all get along really well, all got different skills. We all gel together really well, and it's just worked. And the club's, got going really well, got lots to look forward to. So kind of as I raced, as I came back racing and in all the different forms, and from vintage through to modern, I felt this vibe that the truck racing was the most fun racing. Trucks weren't really around back then either, so it's new to me. Short course certainly wasn't. I don't know when the first RC10 truck came out. It must have been early 90s or something. It wasn't. I don't remember truck racing in the 80s. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't at any events. It was always just two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive buggies, and you generally only race one because your batteries only ran once for that whole day. You couldn't recharge them like you did today. So most people had 4 or 5 batteries. They're about $100 each back then, which is probably like $400 or $500 today. And you ran them once, and that was it. So most people just did one class, which I was one of those. But anyway, the trucks just seemed to be a lot of fun. People, the serious kind of racing, which is the sanctioned events and world titles and stuff, is obviously 110 buggies, and the trucks kind of took a back seat. And a lot of guys actually don't have time to race, and they go to events and just take their buggies and leave their trucks at home. And but then when they bring them out, they actually have a good time. So we come up with the idea of, why don't we run a truck event? Why don't we just leave the buggies at home, and everyone that has trucks, and some people have both a short course and stadium, and often definitely can't race both at a clubby. Bring them both. We've been doing that at Chargers more recently. We've kind of spaced out the truck, the race format, so you can run both if you want to. But so we thought, let's throw it out there and see if people bite. And then it was, well, what classes? What do we do? And obviously the 2 sanctioned classes were the obvious ones. We have so 2-wheel, short course and Stato, and then we have people turning up with the old 4-wheel drive short course and truggies as well, and we kind of just throw them on the track, and so we've created a class for those. And then we kept pulling the piece of cotton. And what about all the Traxxas, people that have Traxxas and Bashes, and they don't tend to race them at clubbies? Why don't people have them if they've got them? Let's create a class for that. So we come up with Truck and Mad, where it's a bit of brung what you brung type scenario. And then someone said, what about Nitro? Like they don't get to run anywhere anymore. And we kind of had a long debate about that, because obviously Chargers is an electric only club, but we also recognise for us to go to another club, our closest 110 club is Sydney. That's where things are on the RC scene, particularly in 110. So kind of, well, let's throw it out there to the committee, and we just decided let's carefully give the Nitro 110 trucks a go again, and let's just see how it goes. So yeah, that'll be carefully managed, but we know lots of good people at the track and the club that'll abide by the sort of little guidelines we've got with that one. So you're not trying to set a precedent for opening the door for anyone and anyone to turn up with nitro whenever they want. That's not what this is. This is just a spectacle. Let's throw some noisy trucks out there and have a laugh and watch them go around. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so that's kind of how, I guess, a summary of my background and where we got to and why this event. And it was just an idea we kind of threw on the table and seems to have been well received.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel as if there has been quite a bit of a drop-off in truck racing in the last, I'd say roughly 10 years. Because when I actually came into the hobby, we had 2 indoor tracks on the coast. Nowadays, we don't have a single one, which is sad in itself. But back then, pretty much all we used to race, whilst it was buggy racing at, one of those 2 tracks, the truck classes absolutely dominated. We had, 34 drive short courses and, a similar, if not more, amount of 2-wheel drives as well, which was just crazy. And just to have that sort of disappear over the last few years has been a bit of a shame, because that's where I sort of come into the world of off-road, at least. So it's good to see a proper, like a truck event. I'm going to try and bring up actually the classes on the screen, if I can make this work. Let's see how we go with this. So yeah, we've got the classes and stuff there for anyone interested in still entering. If you haven't already entered, actually probably one of the things we should be saying as well, if you haven't already entered, make sure you do enter. If you're looking to enter it, get your entries in early. Helps you guys out. Obviously, it helps, I'm guessing, probably Sean running the computer, at least setting up the computer.
So Sean these days, we're kind of relieving him from those duties, and we're actually there's a few of us now that are helping, carry some load there, and more of the committee are getting behind that. So, but yes, you're right. There is probably the thing is the schedule, and I know you're going to get to that. But from a numbers point of view, there will be a limit on some of these classes. Purely, we're currently sitting at probably 10 heats, but that includes 2 outlaw classes. So to cycle through 10 heats, you imagine running that in a sanctioned event, it chews out a day pretty quick. And with the format we've got, it is a bit unique, with some longer races and some other funky stuff that we're going to do. So yeah, the numbers though, it looks like we're going to run all those classes except vintage, unless we get some more vintage entries. There's a few guys that prefer to run their vintage cars on the dirt, not so much on the 6 surface. We can drop the triple out, which is probably the most risky part of the track for anything that might break. So if we end up getting more entries with vintage, we need probably at least 5 in there. Only sitting at a few at this point. But other than that, all the other classes have had a really good response. So, we're looking at 2 to 3 Stato full heats and 2 to 3 short course full heats, which there's 6. Just with that, and a trucking mad class, and the nitro as well. So yeah, and full drive is another full drive truck as well. There's a full race of those by the look of it, so it's going to be cool. Yeah,
perfect. And actually, a bit of a cut back to what you were talking about earlier for trucks when they sort of came around. Scotty, I know I bring it up on screen before. He actually said first commercial race trucks around 91. So
yeah, I missed it. Yeah,
I know my old man used to race trucks occasionally, so that'd be around his era. But yeah, so Zach Ryan's jumping on as well. When 40 comes on, please tell him I'm sorry. we'll catch up on that later. Nonetheless, main things we're going to talk about, obviously, as you mentioned there, we're going to have a bit of a chat about the schedule, because it actually has a really different schedule to what a normal race day / weekend will have. It is a 2-day event, which is different in itself. It's not going to be run over a single day, and then, to be honest, the format looks absolutely awesome. I can't wait. I will be race calling it, which in my opinion will be just as much fun as racing it, which is lucky. I might be able to get my hands on a short course. I know the boss man doesn't want me to beat him in his own car, but I think I can possibly tempt him into having a race myself. Nonetheless, all right, we'll quickly chat about charges itself, I think on the previous chat we went through the history of charges a little bit as well. We'll sort of stick to the current modern times and as to what we're sort of doing at the moment. So talk us through what the actual surface is at charges at the moment.
Yeah, so a decision was made by the club, I'm going to say 5 or so years ago, to put down what is called a SIC, S-I-C, SIC surface. And essentially one of the local business owners here who is pretty dominant in the BMX racing scene, came up with the idea of creating an RC track with the same kind of product. So essentially it's a deco aggregate, from any nursery. You compact it down so it's nice and hard. Then there's like a resin glue that we put in it to kind of hold it together. And then there's a surface, kind of like a fine sand, that we spray across the top of it. It's again glued. So now the reason why there's 6 surface on the BMX track. So the reason why the club went down this path was maintenance. And, obviously anyone that runs a club knows how much effort goes into maintaining a track, particularly ones that have public access, or even worse often, the locals or people just turning up. You're not there to police it the whole time, so all sorts of things happen. This is a really hardy surface. So, yep, it can be, it is harder on your gear, especially your tyres. But probably what's not really appreciated is you can actually run those tyres right down to foams until the foams are blowing out of them. Like, you don't need to buy new tyres every club meet. Like, there's tyres out. You can run the same set of tyres for 3 or 4 meets. We ran enduros. An enduro race, 2 hours, so 2 hours non-stop on one set of tyres, and they could have kept going. Yep. So you work out how many 5-minute races that is, it's a lot. So, I think the other bigger benefit, so there's the maintenance thing where maybe 2 or 3 times a year we go out there and fix up the pipes. We might plug some holes that cars have nosedived in and taken a chunk out. But other than that, the surface is highly resilient and makes maintenance easy. So that's why the club did it, and I think the club made the right choice in doing so, because it makes, it lets us as committee members put our effort somewhere else into helping drive the club and not standing out there with a rake and shovel and trying to, pat down potholes. I think the bigger benefit, though, that might not be fully understood is how quickly it dries. So, we can, even with this rain, it's raining here in Brisbane again, and we could sit back and almost wait to the day off. Now, we could have 5 days of rain, and if it was going to be sunny on Sunday, we would just have to get out there an hour before the racing, and we've got 3 vacuums of wet vacs. We just suck up the water puddles, and it dries like a road. And then it actually happened at the Nationals where we got hit by rain. If you were standing at the track at 8:30 in the morning undercover while the whole track was soaked, you'd go, there's no way we're racing here today. And within an hour, by 10 o'clock, we're up and running. So, that puts us in a really strong position to be able to, other than really nasty weather events that don't go away, when you get hit with rain, or we've got the ability to respond to that and still run an event. Right? People, for us, it would be nice to have a roof, and it's certainly something at some point on the agenda we're going to talk about. But that's $400,000-$500,000. Like, that's massive investment, and we couldn't do that alone. So instead, what we try and do is build our club numbers up, have a really strong membership that's sort of trending in the right direction. And when we apply for grants, we can say we've got a growing membership base. We cater for kids. We cater for adults. We have a ramp for people with disabilities. So it's a tick, 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 tick in terms of community investment. And, it's a diverse, we're not sort of diversifying. We're not stuck in one kind of genre where we're opening up to everyone, which is why it charges. We push the kids, we push women. If there's people with disabilities, we kind of help make sure they're comfortable and can participate just like everyone else, because with that diversification and with our growing numbers, it actually puts us in a really good position to ask for a roof because of the sun, not the rain, and keeping people out of the sun. So so the surface maintenance, quick drying, I would say the two keys, and the downside. And the other one is from a racing perspective. You've seen it, Mitch. It's nice, tight racing and race calling, and it's very consistent. Other than the occasional traction roll when people get a bit excited, but it's pretty fast, fun racing to watch too, and which is why the trucks are pretty cool to watch them all fanging around together really close. I remember you and Rob Maycock in the Nationals were like a metre apart for 5 minutes, and both respectfully keeping each other's space, and it was like that'd be really hard to do on a surface, on a loose surface.
Yeah, for sure. Truck racing there is always fun. Nationals, as you mentioned there, was awesome as well. And I expect to see more of it, next week. Not next weekend, sorry, the weekend after that. So we covered off the actual surface itself. You actually messaged me before that you're doing a track redevelopment. I want you to explain through that as well.
Yeah. So we've got, there's a couple of things. So we've got we've got an area where we've got our track, our main track. It's a fenced off area, but there's a turnstile there for people to get in and out, as in general public, for those that haven't been to the track. And we did have a little bit of space there off the side, and there's a few vintage diehards where we actually build a little track to start running some vintage meets, and that's also growing. And there's a lot of people coming back, just like myself, that hadn't raced for a long time. It's a different vibe on the dirt. Vintage is dirt racing. That's what it was back then. And yes, there's potholes and maintenance and weeds growing up out of the ground and all that sort of stuff that we got to. But that's what it is, and that's what people love about it. So we went through a process of extending our area, our facility area. So the fence area now is bigger, which has opened it right up for us to actually build a full-size dirt track. And that work has just actually happened. The fence has actually been built. We're now if the weather hadn't been what it was, we could have even possibly had concrete slabs for 2 new containers that are going down, a driver's stand and a kiosk. And so we're sort of optimistic that by the end of April, we'll have that up there. And then we kind of can build that second track, which it is to help the vintage movement, but it also opens up options for us to run truck racing on it. Run trucks as part of a vintage meet, so to speak, or occasionally people have rear motor mount 2-wheel drives, outlaw cars. We can actually, that were built that way because of the dirt, all the weights at the back to get traction on the back wheels, whereas now the motors are forward because there's a lot of surfaces like ours that are high grip. So we will have a facility that caters for vintage, that caters for modern, and gives us flexibility to actually even run some modern stuff on that dirt surface, because we got guys in, as I said, the closest track we've got is now Sydney for 110. And there's the guys heading down south next weekend to the New South Wales Titles. It is a dirt surface. It gives them another surface to kind of, so the other surfaces aren't as foreign as what they are today for a lot of us that kind of get used to the grippier 6 surface. So it gives us some flexibility as a club. So, again, that will help us in our, because a lot of what we do is grant applications. There's a lot of different grants that you can go for, and 9 times out of 10, you're not successful. And if you give up, you don't get them. If you're persistent, you get them. And we've been those are starting to come through because of our membership numbers and because we're persistent. And that's allowed us to, get a little bit of help to help build this extended area with some containers. We've got another, we'll be applying for lights as well, and sort of stadium type lights. so we can run night racing. So in summer we can move to the evenings and nights, which that's due at the end of this month, and I've got Sean and myself will chug through that one. There's a lot of paperwork to kind of do that, but we've applied for these before and got knocked back, but we'll be persistent. We'll show the growing story, which is why we really do push for, and it's not just our club, it's any club in Australia. If you're sitting there and you occasionally race, no one asks a lot of money for membership. Just that membership number makes a huge difference for council recognition and grant support. So I encourage any of your listeners to join their local clubs because it helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, one thing you brought up before as well was the potential for truck racing on vintage night, and I'd definitely be up for some Friday night racing with a short course.
Some short course bird racing, yeah. How good is that?
No, I'd definitely be up for that. That's for sure. Okay, next thing up, the format. Run us through the format that you guys have come up with for the truck race.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've come up with two events over the weekend. So 2 different formats, 2 events. So what we've done is on the Saturday, we're going to run what is, some people know it as heads-up racing. Some people know it as Reedy format. It's essentially, there's no qualifiers. It's races with random shuffling of drivers and grids, and the system works out. You win. You accumulate points based on your finishing results, and that then adds up over the day, and you drop your worst one, and then it works out how many points. So if you win every race, sometimes you're starting from the back and it's tricky, right? So we're running that on the Saturday, and some people may also, so that's from a racing perspective, and we're actually going to make them 7 minutes. So the extra 2 minutes is actually really cool. It should be, in my view, what racing should move to, given we could barely run 5 minutes with the batteries we had back in the 80s, and that's why they were 5 minutes, and now these batteries will run 15 minutes, no problem. Why are we running 5-minute races? Anyhow, I'll get off my horse on that one. So 7, and we've done it at clubbies, and we've done it at a few other weekend events as well, and it's well received, as long as people know that they might need to tone down their motor and stuff so it doesn't overheat. And actually, if you get a crap start, it gives you time to get back through the field as well. So we think there's a lot of benefits in that one. So we will, that'll be that day's format. And then around lunchtime, we'll do a hooligan race. For those who don't know what that is, it's something I think Jonathan Huntley brought it to the club a few years ago, and we've been running them ever since. It's just chuck whatever you can on the track, all the obstacles in the world, hoses, pipes, chairs, people sit out on the track, lie on the track, and we generally run it in reverse. And we run a race, and there's no marshals. So if you get stuck, you get flipped, you get caught in a hose, you're out. Like you're stuck, and it's last man standing type stuff, or whoever does the most laps in 5 minutes. So it's a bit of fun. It's a good laugh. So we'll run that at lunchtime just as a spectacle, and then we'll sort of finish off the 7-minute heads up racing. So in the system, that will accumulate points and I guess winners for that day. And so in the next day, we move into what's the typical IFMAR style to qualies and mains. So we'll run 2 qualifiers. We'll actually seed people in the first qualifier based on their results the day before. So there's a bit of a seeding that's occurred. And then it's typically your best 2 count or drop your worst, however you like to say it, for that one. And that's a separate event with its own points. And then the actual lifetime can run it as a series, and it can accumulate points from Saturday, accumulate points from Sunday, combine them, and that's how we get our event results. The other really cool thing we're doing, where Mitch, you've seen, you call this, and we all have a good laugh, is the top 10 shootout. So, you know, we let someone go out there. They've got everyone standing around watching. They do a warm-up lap, and then we go, and there's a heckling, and, you know, you're into them any way you can. And it's trying to see if they can do a fast, clean lap. And it's funny how some of the really steely guys that you'd expect to do a fast lap come unstuck on that one. And often it's the people that you don't know that can kind of just shut it all out and get the job done. But that'll be a bit of fun, and we'll, as it says there, we'll get the fastest laps from the day before, any class, across all classes, and we'll just throw them all together on the track to kick off the day.
Yep.
And we'll go back to 5-minute races that day, just purely from a scheduling point of view. We're running an extra race. Obviously, we're going from 4 to 5. So, those who have run events before, you add up the minutes, and then the minutes in between, and, you know, in between qualies and mains and all that, and make sure you can actually squeeze it into a day. So we did it that way. So anyway, very different than what. And there's a couple of twists that we're going to do on both days as well in some of those. So we won't say what they are. It'll be a bit of fun. And, you know, everyone will be equally penalised or affected. It's not picking on any one person. So it should be good. It should be good. Look, the point of it is get the trucks out there, have a laugh, have some fun, do some racing as well. Mix it up with a bit of low-key, you know, things that we just don't see on race days that actually make RC really cool and fun. That's what this is about.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of other people are as well. No more than, I think, Mr. Dominic Blackman as well. He is absolutely banging for it. He came into work today. I got to tell you, this is probably more of a private chat anyway. He came into work and he looked stressed. And I think it was literally because he hasn't raced in about, maybe a good 5 weeks now. I've never seen a man so stressed from not racing in my life as Dominic Blackman. So he is banging for a race.
He does get around a bit, doesn't he? And loves these cars. But yeah, he's one of the crazies at our club that sometimes runs 4 classes on a club. It's like, yep. I don't know how he does it, but no, he's a good fella, Dom. So it's good to see him enjoy his racing, and he cops it on the chin when he has a stinker, and he's very humble when he has a good one. So he's kind of a really good ambassador for the hobby.
Yeah, a legendary bloke. Next thing up as well, what can we expect from the weekend? You know, what are your thoughts, overlooks of the weekend? Obviously, you mentioned before you're looking for a fun-filled weekend. Well, what more on top of that?
Yeah, look, I think there's often the seriousness and obviously sanctioned events can be stressful. We're hoping that's dialed right down, and people that want to race can still race, but there's it's a celebration of RC/trucks is what I hope I see. You know, we've got I think there's still 2 weeks to go, and we've got 70 something entries, which is good. And we know there's a number of people that enter late. And I know that people racing that haven't put their names down yet. So, you know, I think the numbers are going to be like a busy Chargers clubby. And that's sort of, you know, 90, 80, 90, 100, I don't know where it'll end up. For those that aren't sure and sitting on the fence and travel and all the rest of it, like the club goes out of its way to help traveling people with, you know, obviously that we've got shelter as well built in. We've got a concrete pit area, lots of power. We're really spoilt with facility stuff. So, you know, if you are thinking about it and want to come, we kind of look at the names anyway, and we've got a fair indication of any newbies that we don't know. We can definitely connect and make sure you have what you need. And if you need tables and chairs, obviously you get priority with that sort of stuff. I think, Mitch, we're just going to try and kick off at around 8-ish like we normally do. And what we don't want to do is be finishing dusk. So we'd like to like we always try to get people away at 3-ish at the latest. This will be the same, so people can, relax in the afternoon or go back and work on their trucks. The other cool thing is if you have a stinker on the Saturday, this Sunday's a new event, right? So whatever happened on the Saturday really doesn't matter. You can qualify well and have a totally different day on the Sunday. So whatever happens Saturday, other than the accumulation of points, but from an event point of view, you can kind of turn up Sunday with a fresh mindset and actually have a new go if the Saturday was doesn't go to plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, we're not going out of the way. It won't be run like a huge, massive event. Phoenix will be towing a caravan. Eagleton doesn't know that yet, but it'll be a caravan with a big Besser block in the back of it, and he'll probably still win, the little bastard. Anyway, I think that's a Gary Sturdy truck too, so that'll be one to watch.
Yeah.
So look, I think we're not going all out with what we do with our sanctioned events, with security and all of the bells and whistles, because we've kept entry costs low to help people with financial pressures. I think it's like $25 to enter. It's cheap, and so we'll run it like a big clubby. The money obviously goes back into trophies and buying food and stuff like that. So we'll think of it like that. So it will be relaxed, and the point of it is just people coming, having a good time, and actually falling in love with their trucks again, and maybe a resurgence, in different places. So we actually see more of them out there, because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an absolute clown making all sorts of faces down the bottom here. Look at this guy. Look at him. He's ready to go. Go away. Get back off the stage.
What do you mean, John?
All right,
we had a half an hour chat yesterday.
We did.
Yeah, we did. How are you, 40?
I'm good, Jenna. How you doing, mate?
Good.
Very good. Sorry,
Oh,
Mitchell. In the background, enjoying
you're doing all sorts of stuff in the background. I can't explain what you were doing. I'd get kicked off of stuff.
Prove it.
Nonetheless, pretty much last talking points and stuff I wanted to go over and was pretty much drivers to watch. And you mentioned before, obviously, Phoenix Eggleton. Who else do you think will be a driver to watch come race days?
Got to mention Don Blackman, don't I?
I don't know if he's a driver to watch on track.
I reckon there's a few out there that, if giving them the time to focus on their trucks, because they're so buggy focused, I think there could be a few surprises. I think people where they've actually got time to actually change the shock oil in their trucks, which no one ever does on a clubby. You might actually see some people go really well that you wouldn't think normally would go as well, and might just take to the way the trucks drive. I am aware of a potential other person who hasn't entered, isn't on the list yet, that will enter, that will do very well. I'm just going to leave it at that. That'll probably be almost unveiled on the day. But look, obviously Phoenix, if Rob Maycock, he enters, I think he's got a very heavy calendar at the moment. He's always goes well. Gopal goes well. Dimitri spends a heap of time at the track, goes well. There's a number of newbies. Michael Thomas, who lives at the track, his times are getting better and better, and the more track time these guys put in, the better they go. And I think with the trucks, it's staying out of trouble. There's a bigger footprint on the track, and just get clean starts and get your own space, and just try to stay on all four wheels, and you'll go well. I think it'll be tight. I think there'll be a few usual suspects that go well. I think Corey Tate is coming as well. So he's a very capable 1.8 driver. He will be one to watch.
For sure. Actually, he's got a lot of history when it comes to truck racing. I know.
He raced in an enduro with me and Cossack I don't know, a few years ago, and he's very
Yep.
just took the radio and just got it like that. So
Yeah.
there's
He's
you know
very,
there's- Yep.
very proud of, I think it would have been about 2016 Queensland state champion for stadium truck.
yeah, right.
I believe. So no, he's very proud of that one. I think that's his main claim to fame for Corey Tate, and he displays it proudly. I think it was his profile picture up until about last year. So that's how proud he was of that one. So he's going to come out swinging with the trucks.
Matty Lawrence as well. His truck last time he ran it was just on rails. So we've got a number of A-grade buggy drivers that will all be thrown in the hot pot together, and then there's a few other people that we may smoke out that haven't seen for a little while come mix it up as well. So as I said,
Dimitri's going extra hard for this. He's growing out a bigger moustache than normal.
he is going hard. He's got all sorts of funky Frankenstein stuff on that TLR of his. I don't really know if it's a TLR anymore, Andrew. It's got all sorts of homegrown stuff on it. But yeah, he's obviously his truck goes well, and he's one of these people that could race any class, but it's how do you race them all and how do you fit them all in, and the truck's a second fiddle to him. So in this event, it can be his priority car. I know he's going to race outlaw cars as well. We probably haven't touched on that, Mitch. That might be one just quickly to touch on in a sec. But for someone like him and Rob Maycock and Matt Lawrence that never turn up to a clubby just to race truck or an event, actually leave the trucks at home in an event, gives them a chance to kind of focus on it, and Gopal as well. So it'd be good to see how they go. I know I need to pass the baton over. Outlaw. So Outlaw is another concept that we've had at Chargers, and you've got the modern day buggies, which are all the kind of new ones or one model later that people can race and be competitive. And then you got vintage, which is generally pre-2000. So there's all these cars, I'm going to say between 2000 and 2017-ish, that kind of are in no man's land. And I don't know where we got the name Outlaw from. I think it's used in the US, but they're the Outlaw car because they don't really fit to the modern, and they're definitely not legal in vintage. So, and a lot of people have these sitting around doing nothing. So we have created the sportsman's class at Chargers for people to start running these cars, and people have been bringing them out and reminding themselves, actually, these things still go pretty bloody well. Like they're quick. So we've got a two-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive class for that. The two-wheel drive, then 13.5 motors, so they're nice and quick. The only stipulation is the two-wheel drive one's a rear motor mount, just purely from a purist point of view. That's kind of what they were back then, and otherwise on our track, a mid-mount motor probably would have an advantage over those. But they go around really well. We've been running them for a while. So if you've got an older car that's 2015 or something, I haven't driven that for ages, and you want to throw it on the track, second fiddle to your truck. Or if you don't have a truck and you've got one of those, enter. All the classes are getting all get trophies and stuff. So they're not, because they're outlaw and it's a truck event, doesn't mean they won't be given any love. It just means they're not in the spotlight as much as the trucks are.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And I mean, I'm looking forward to all the racing. The outlaw racing will be great fun as well, just to mix it on up with the truck guys as well. That pretty much covers off all the topics for the Chargers day. Whoa, Jesus. I'll include a link to the Chargers truck event in the chat right now. So if you do want any more info on it, it's in the chat. Have a look at the link there. That takes you straight to the Chargers RC truck event. Entries and stuff all available there as well. Info on tyres as well, has a recommendation for tyres. The class is running pretty much everything we've just gone over. So if you are looking to enter, make sure you jump on and enter. And anything else, Jono?
No, I'll give the baton over to Andrew.
Not a problem. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Is this where I hang up? What do I see?
Yeah, you can stay in, mate. Three's a good number.
I'll stay on for 5 or so, and when you bore me, mate, I'll jump. No, I'm just kidding. You go.
I'll stay on before 5, mate.
Go
Uh,
for it.
if you want, you can jump into the background and start doing the same faces that Foord was doing just before.
Just encouraging you.
That's what the smirks. I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I was in the background. No one could see me but Mitch. I was just running my own race.
I was going to pop you in when you were doing something ridiculous, but I thought, oh, I better not.
Good, mate. It's been the end of the podcast.
Pack it up. Let's go.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you very much for jumping on, Jenna. I really do appreciate it. And I think everyone's looking forward to that truck event. Once again, if you haven't jumped in, registered, make sure you do so. If you are on the fence, jump on in. It's going to be a great weekend. So,
Thanks, Mitch.
cheers, Jeno. All righty. Mr. Andrew Foord. We are going to shuffle yous around a little bit. There we go. All righty.
Oh,
Mr.
top
Andrew
spot.
Foord. Say again?
Yeah, I get top spot now. It's good.
Yeah, number one almost. Mr. Andrew Foord. Now we had a massive weekend. What it'd be about a week and a half ago now, 2 weeks, week
Yeah,
and a
man.
half, 2 weeks, something like that. It
Yeah, you got
feels. I feel like I'm still recovering for it.
Yeah.
Definitely a big weekend of racing. So we're going to cover off a lot of topics when it comes to that sort of things. We'll go through results, people that we sort of thought about whilst we were down there, who we thought would go well and who went well whilst we were down there, us the side of things. What we're going to do, we're going to kick off with the track itself. And I know we've already got a couple of people commenting from earlier and stuff, and we'll catch back up on that in a second.
Let's get some
But the
fan
track
engagement
itself,
going.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, get them onto a bit
Might
of
be some
banter.
people I have to roast on the live stream, like Zach
Yeah.
Ryan. Other guys.
Just let loose. It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. We'll kick off with the track itself. I think we all, everyone turned up on either Wednesday or Thursday, whether it be morning, afternoon, that's the side of things. Was a heavily oiled track that looked tricky from the get go. How many people actually had done laps before the actual nationals had kicked off?
I think the club day we held 2 weeks prior, there was a few guys that were in Keilor racing electric, and there was a few guys overseas racing in Vietnam for the Femke race. So I think we only had maybe 19 or 20 guys at that club day. And it was normally we'd cancel an event if it was sort of 36 degrees. But it ended up being sort of 37. I think it might have even got sort of closer to 38 during the day. So it wasn't ideal conditions for testing a track or playing toy cars. I don't know about you, but I don't really like playing with toy cars when it's that hot.
That's every day.
Yeah, maybe 19 guys, man. Not a ton. Like we didn't do a lot of laps. It was a pretty hot day. So not a heat.
Typical Adelaide weather as well. Now, I went down to South Australia and Adelaide for the 10 scale state titles a few years back. And literally, we were racing, I think it was, Saturday, and it would have been same again. It would have been probably about 35, 36 degrees, sun blazing, hot as hell. Couldn't imagine any other weather other than that for the next day or so. We turned up the next day. It was bitterly cold. I didn't take a jump because you don't take a jump when the weather prediction is 36 degrees. No matter what it says, it's meant to be the next day. I would say it topped out at about 12 degrees with the winds galing through, and I didn't have a jump or anything. It was freezing cold. Adelaide weather is just on a different planet. It can either be Antarctica or just directly next to the sun, and I don't understand that either. Just as much as I don't understand your time system down there. Never will. Not going to try. I've given up.
Not a grasp on time.
I have given up on that. Okay, the track itself. I'd say heavily oiled personally. I know Shane's jumped on and asked heavily oiled, but I would say it was pretty heavily oiled when it comes down to in comparison to a non-oiled track. Technically heavily oiled. What would you say when it comes to the oil surface?
Well, it was just right.
Yep.
Just right. Held up really well throughout the event. Cars weren't coming off too dirty.
Yep.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, exactly. The grip level throughout the weekend, it was, it started off pretty much grippy as hell from the get-go. I know I had people saying that McBride was even on bars from first run. Were you guys somewhat surprised by that?
Yeah, Kyle wasn't on bars first run. He was on bars Actually, I think it might have even been second run, Like the
Right.
first round of seeding, he was on like a pin tire, I'm pretty sure. And then he tried a bar in the second round. First round was hard. Like first round was super early. So the track was like quite cold. The grip was down from where the grip ended up at the end of the day. I was on bars in Q1, which was my third run on Thursday, and pretty much stayed there the whole event. I tried a bunch of stuff, but the track was like bar ready by Q1. Probably depending on when you ran in the second run, whether you were like early in the day or later in the day, you could have been on bars then. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. We as far as us being surprised or not, it's really hard to tell because when we run like a 2 or 3 day event, like we don't get that many laps. I think there was like 18,000 laps done across the 4 days, which is so much more than we'd normally get even at a 3 day event. So it was like, it came up quicker than I thought. I thought probably bars Friday, maybe like midday Friday would get to that point. Happened Thursday. And yeah, so I don't know if, like, to be honest, man, I don't know if you could ask for much better of a surface, really. Like, it held together really well. The grip was high. The grip was pretty consistent. It depended on weather a lot. So in the morning runs to the midday to the afternoon run, depending on the sun, it would change a little bit, but the grip was high throughout the whole day. It was just super high or a little bit less high. So yeah, I don't know if you could ask for much more as far as consistency is concerned.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that surprised me a fair bit when it came to the morning starts, because we had a couple of fairly early morning starts, I think 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish. The track grip level was still there. Like it hadn't dropped off all that much. I was checking lap times between the heats from the previous round, say to the next round when we had the overnight changeover time. And there was probably all of tenths of a second to, the average, we're talking sort of average drivers here, to about half a second before we got into the higher heats. And by that time, obviously a little more sun came out and the lap times were equivalent from the day before. So it was very minimal.
It was actually
to say
high,
the least.
man. Like Friday morning, the Q1 for Friday morning, I thought, sorry, Q2, which was Friday morning, I thought it would be down on grip because it was early, but it was like mental. So the grip actually, I thought the grip actually decreased ever so slightly as the day went on, as the sun came. So yeah, it was high. Like even the first run of the first day, grip was definitely down as the track was a bit green. But yeah, once cars had hit it, the grip never sort of dropped a ton. Even in our semi practice, which was mega early on Sunday, the grip was still pretty high. It was just really cold.
Yeah. No, I have a couple of videos out on my Facebook channel. If anyone's looking to sort of view over them, and you could see from the cars. And once again, I was thinking the same thing, that surely it's going to be dropping down, speed, temperature, weather, temperature wise, and all that side of things. But the cars were just locked in, and you could see that on the actual videos on there as well. It was definitely
more
was
of an
surprising
issue with the temperature. Like in that semi practice, the shocks were so hard. So like everyone obviously knew that we're doing a semi in 2 hours time, sort of thing. Like 9:30, I think, was the first semi. It's like between 9 and 10 o'clock was the semis happening, and the sun was out, and it was like the cars were much better. But in that early morning run, my car was felt so stiff until about 8 minutes in, till it sort of heated up. So, but the grip was there. Like the grip was mega.
Yep.
I don't know if you could want it anymore, to be honest with you, man. It was pretty consistent.
Yeah. No, it looks awesome. And consistency is what every club strives for, especially with an event like this. A large event, you want it as consistent as possible throughout, not just the weekend, but throughout the day. And I think that track absolutely nailed it. So it's really good to see. And the oiled surface definitely turning it on for racing. And I think it does, to be honest, prove another point when it comes to oiled tracks. I don't think every track needs to be an oiled track by any means, but man, it sure as hell works for a lot of tracks out there. So.
Yeah, dude. And the traffic, like, again, I've done a lot of national titles, and I really like natural dirt. Like, I don't only like oil. Oil's great. I really enjoy racing on oil. I really enjoy racing on natural dirt. and there's different challenges that come into one or the other. But certainly from a track consistency standpoint, as far as holes and bumps and ruts, we only really had one section, the top left, which had, it was like one decent sized hole, 2 car widths off the apex. And you could drive inside the hole, like you could avoid the hole. So other than that, the track surface pretty much stayed consistent. There was the variable of grip, time of day, certainly tire, compound choice. So there was definitely decisions you had to make to kind of be on it. But it wasn't track being super green, then a really heavy blue groove, or massive holes developing that you had to sort of set the car up around. So it's a different challenge. But for us, like the track right now is in immaculate condition. Like I went around laps on Monday, Easter Monday. The track is primo. It's almost got better. Like the grip was down ever so slightly from nationals, but the surface itself was unreal. So you guys leave, we get left for the track that's still in great condition. Like it's a bit of a win-win for us as a club. It's really good.
Yeah. On top of that as well, no watering schedule needed. Basic repairs between, Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday, that sort of things, very basic. We're talking a couple of small jump face repairs. And that took, probably
we're mostly
carpet. Yeah, carpet. Yeah,
we put carpet on the lip, and me and Joel did a track walk, and we kind of explained why we do that.
Mm-hmm.
But because the jumps are fresh, like they'll get dug out. It's the way it is with all tracks. You need like time, like months of running for them to kind of like settle in almost. So we had to have carpet on there to keep the jump in good condition. We changed it every day. So we're there most nights till like 8 o'clock, making sure the carpet was in good condition. And to be fair, it wasn't necessarily the fact that it was carpet. It was just the wrong type of carpet we were using. Like the stuff we used was like high pile. It would tear. The oil would actually stick to it and like tear strands off it.
Yeah. Oh, we lost him.
Trying to fix it around.
There he is. We lost you for a second there. You just disappeared and then popped back in.
Yeah, so did you. Yeah, I was just saying, like, it was the wrong type of carpet that we used. So, like, our repairs were moving the carpet around so we'd have a fresh piece on that lip. And to be honest, that was really the only maintenance we were doing, just making sure everything was good. We filled a couple of holes a couple of days. We probably didn't need to. Like, they blow straight back out pretty fast. So, I think for the last day, we thought we'd just leave them because they were just getting better with more cars hitting them. But yeah, we were pretty, like, from a club perspective, we were pretty stoked.
Yeah. Catching back up with something that you mentioned before, which was pretty funny, because I was sitting in the car for a fair while for this. Tony asked you and I've forgotten Power.
Joel
Power, that's the one. To do a track walk video. And what was the time that he told you to try and stick with?
He said to us, if you could make it 15 or 20 minutes, that'd be great. And we're like, yeah, dude, we got you. It's all good.
Yeah, easy.
And then we finished it. It was like 40-something minutes. Like, oh God, how much shit do we talk? People liked it. I was genuinely shocked, man. We had people like watching it and then coming up to us the next day being like, that was sick. We even had guys who weren't even racing, like locals who have just joined the club that are pretty new to the RC, that like watched it, and they messaged Joel and they were like, man, that was so good. Like there was things in there we've never even thought about. It was sick to see, but we took way longer than I think Tony like probably ideally wanted. But we covered everything. So I don't know, man. It's you let us loose on a mic, we'll just take as long as it takes.
Yeah, I was sitting in the car freezing it because I was walking around outside for a while. I said, okay, yeah, Tony's doing a track walk with these boys. It's going to be a little while. I'll go sit in the car for a while because I was freezing outside.
Yeah.
And man, I was playing games, watching YouTube videos, that sort of side of things. And I was like, man, I feel like I've been sitting here for half an hour. And you guys were still on like turn 8 or something like that. You were halfway through the track. And I was going, what is going on? Like, have they had to restart or something? No, you guys were just cruising around, talking for 10 minutes on each corner.
We were just talking shit. We were like covering the spots. But like when he said 15 or 20 minutes, I thought to myself, I'm like, killer, I kind of need a piss now, but it'll only be 15 minutes. And it was 40 minutes, man. By turn like 7, I was going to wet myself. And then that was me trying to hurry it up. Like we could have gone longer.
Yeah.
If we're in prime conditions, no toilet breaks required. It could have been an hour, man.
Yeah, no, it was a crack up. Tony was spieling onto me about it on the car home and stuff. It was a crack up.
Yeah,
So yeah, once again, if you haven't watched that video, make sure you go back and watch it. It is a good quality video.
good luck.
Okay, so yeah, cover the track. Awesome facility. That's the side of things. One of the things we actually had a quick chat about before we came on stream was the pits area and that's the side of things, and the advantage in a way of not having a permanent pit, but rather having literally everyone in this one massive pit stall. So talk about that.
Yeah, that was. I think a lot of big events, tracks that have permanent pits, that like they don't have permanent pits for 90 entries. Well, it was ended up being 92 tables that we put out. So 92 individual entrants, however many classes they were racing, just use one table. And we sort of filled that. So we, like, by a little bit of luck, we planned for it and got it nailed pretty perfect. A week and a bit before, one of the guys that was organizing it, I said we should get 20 more tables. And we ended up having the right amount. But I think the pit area, like having everyone pitting in the same tent, I know there was 3 of them, but everyone pitting in the same area added to the atmosphere a little bit. And I thought it worked out really well, like not having people off on their own tents, kind of doing their own thing, which I don't have a problem with personally, but from like an atmosphere point of view, everyone in the same spot was really good. And yeah, like I suppose we got lucky in that sense. We don't have permanent pits, so we have to provide pitting for everyone. And we did that, and we managed to just get the perfect amount that there was enough space. And the space thing was huge. Like, I've been to a lot of events, and even if you have undercover pitting, normally you're back to back with the people behind you. Like, OJOs are hard to get through. It's a little bit tight. We had heaps of space between the rows of tables. There was heaps of room for people to come and talk at your table and not kind of get in the way. So that worked out really well. I think from an event atmosphere point of view, it really added a lot. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun because you're pitting with everyone. It was good, talking shit, playing music, having a good time. I enjoyed it. I think most people I've spoken to have just been complimentary of how much fun they had, which is, I mean, really, that's what we're all there to do. Only one of us wins. The rest of us are there to have a good time and hang out with your friends that you don't get to see very much. So worked out well.
No, I definitely did. No, I walked around the pits a couple of times, and I actually left Tim on the mic a few times, who did an awesome job as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, yeah. As you mentioned, like the atmosphere in the pits and stuff was awesome. Everyone was helping each other out, talking to each other. Majority of the time, I'd say most people were at other people's table having a chinwag and stuff, which was awesome to see. So, it definitely livens the atmosphere up. No, absolutely awesome. Okay, before we get over to the main things, we're going to go back into the comments and bring this one up because I'm keen to go through a couple of these things. So, what is Mr. Zach Ryan apologizing for?
So he's apologizing because he thinks he should be sorry that he beat me at my home track. I let him know he didn't actually beat me. I broke. It's different. And just brought him back down to reality a little bit. But I take his apology. I don't care you broke. No one remembers excuses. Yeah, well, look, Zach, he's actually got a fair big point there. No one does remember the excuses. Yeah, he's just apologizing for beating me. I'll get him back in Queensland. Don't worry. ABC, I'll have his number.
Yeah, no, that's another big one coming up as well.
He's old now, which is unfortunate for Zach, but he's not old enough to race 40 plus.
Yep.
But he's old enough for me to wax him. So he's in this weird little middle ground. He's either going to have to get faster, which he won't do, or change the age of the seniors race, which is more likely for him to do, actually.
Yeah, Jackson says sorry too.
But that's because Jacko flogged Zach.
Yep.
Which Jacko flogged Zach easily, I would say.
Jacko had a good
Jackson
weekend.
Bill fan, and he gave Zach the work. No worries at all. So maybe Zach should hit up Ty for some advice on car setup. Could help him not crash every 4 laps in the main.
Yeah. Yep, Martin as well. Hello, gents and 40. That's
Hey, Martin.
interesting. Hello, gents and 40. Is that okay? We'll move on.
I don't know. Martin just likes giving me a hard time, which is fine. I like giving Martin a hard time. It's reciprocated. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, that's most of the comments. Yeah. Once again, if you do have a comment or some banter to jump in on, by all means, jump in on it. On to results. Now, I think we sort of picked a few people as drivers to watch before we went down on our sort of lead up chat. Couple of big ones that you mentioned as well. I'll go through those ones for us.
Yeah. Well, I picked for drivers to watch. I picked it was underdogs, and I picked Aaron Dexter and Zach Foster. Now, Zach Foster did incredibly well. Like, he had almost a dream meeting, I would call it. Junior national champion. He was rolling in P2 for a lot of the main. Like, after Alex unfortunately broke out, Zach was in third at that point, so still on for a podium. And hanging on to Kyle, very, very well. So he was driving really good. He got a third overall. Christian ended up getting him, and Kyle got him. So third, which is Zach's best result at the Nationals. He did phenomenally well. Really, really good effort. I called that, so I'll take some kind of trophy from Scotty.
Yep.
Maybe he'll paint me a free shell or something for wishing it into existence. But Zach did incredibly well. Very proud of Zach. And Aaron Dexter, he ran out of fuel. Now, they were down. We went down there Monday to finish packing up and all the stuff you need to do when you're running the event. And he was down there with his dad, and they were doing fuel time running, and they couldn't make it happen again. So I'm not sure what happened with the fuel strat. He might have been on a Ferrari strat where they were like, box, and he's like, I'm already out. Something happened with the fuel strat, but Aaron was on for a good result as well. And he drove really well throughout the weekend. He's a teammate of mine. He's a good friend of mine. So through the weekend, we were giving each other a bit of hard time about where we were qualifying. I ended up getting him by 1 point in qualifying, which I was pretty stoked with. He was a little bit cut on, but he told me wait for the mains. We waited for the mains. I didn't make the main. He did. But he very much was in, I'm going to make a car for an A-main type mindset. So he wasn't too worried about qualifying. He was worried about making it to a semi, getting a good car, and then going and doing well in the longer races, which I think he did. And if he hadn't run out of fuel, he would have done really well. I think he finished 6th, even with a flame out.
Yeah.
Which is still very impressive.
Yeah.
So Aaron did well. Did you pick anyone did you have like a driver that you were watching aside from the obvious two, which is Alex and Kyle?
Yeah, I can't even remember, to be perfectly honest with you. Trying to look back through it. Actually, I'll bring up the results as we're sort of going through from qualifying. Pop this one up. It might spark some memories. But yeah, McBride obviously taking the top spot. You also had Jaden Edmonds having a good run over there as well. I remember that.
Jaden had a good run in the main. He would have done a lot better. Our local guys, me, Jaden, Damon, and Zach, Damon Davis-Perry and Jaden Edmonds. Jaden had a wing. I don't know whether he broke it or I think he broke it actually.
Yeah,
like
his
wing mount
came off. Yeah.
Yeah, which sucked for Jaden because he was doing well till then. And he still did well. They fixed it. He still did all right in the end. Damon had an issue at the start of the main, and they had to change the engine. They put a new engine in, and he went out and finished the race, and he was mega quick. So he would have done quite well, but it's nitro racing, and sometimes stuff happens, which sucks. But there was definitely I think this Nationals was really good from a South Australian point of view. We had 3 guys in the main. I might have been in there if my engine didn't move, but the guys that did make the main, I thought they drove really well. So I was quite proud because they're all quite young kids. I've helped them all out at some point to some degree, and it's nice to see them do well.
Yeah. I'd say overall as well, this would probably be right up there with our youngest like A main for a Nationals of ever. You have a couple of older boys in there as well, obviously Craig Lawton, and
Andy
also
Fewell's
Zach
like
Ryan. Yeah,
but he
he's
brings that
pushing
average
on
age
70.
up
Yeah,
a fair amount.
he brings
Craig
up
does
like
too.
15 years of title. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach does as well. There was some old boys in
There
there.
was a couple of old boys in there, but just the young fellas that are popping up through the ranks as well. Obviously, Zach Foster, as we already talked a little bit about, we're going to probably talk about him a fair bit more. Obviously, Alex still pretty young. He's only about 19, 20, something like that. I still think he's like 16.
No, he's a fully grown man, Alex.
Yeah, he is a fully grown man now.
Good lad, Alex. I like Alex a lot, and his dad.
Yeah, proper good fella.
people.
Actually, Scotty's just jumped on here with a question. Strength and 8 scale racing in Western Australia, South Australia, and Queensland. When will we see a re-emergence from New South Wales and Victoria? That's probably a question you can answer more than what I can.
They're great questions. I like Scott Guy. I like Scott Guy a lot, actually. I've known Scotty for a long time. His articles and his writing for racing I think he does an awesome job. ABC last year, he did such a cool job doing like daily summaries and pre-event articles, post-event articles. I'm a big Scotty Guy fan. It's a great question. It's a very interesting question. Victoria, I can't see. There's all the young guys in Victoria race 10 scale, and they're incredibly talented. But none of them seem to either have a passion for or put any or much effort into 8 scale at all. So from an 8 scale perspective, I can't see much coming out of Victoria unless some of those 10 scale guys put a bit of effort into 8 scale, which, I mean, their passion's 10 scale and do what makes you happy. So I'm not hanging shit on anyone, but just from an 8 scale point of view, there's no young guys coming through. Liam Jones he's a young guy still, but he doesn't race that much. He did really well in Truggy. New South Wales is an interesting one. Again, if I'm missing anyone, I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of any really talented 8 scale racers. Everyone in Sydney, there are some incredibly talented drivers in Sydney. Again, they all race 10 scale. So I believe that Lachlan Donnelly and Jared Ment are doing ABC, which is an 8 scale event. I know Jared Ment, when he was running TLR, he raced the Perth Worlds, so he's run 8 scale before. But whether the scene in both of those states, I know a little bit about it. Sydney doesn't have a club, 8 scale club anymore. Like Liverpool was a place I've raced a few times. It was a great club. It was Metro Sydney, doesn't exist. They got to go to Maitland, which is a great facility, but it's a fair drive. Wollongong got a good track. It's not in Sydney. Canberra, again, a big drive. So I think, and Melbourne actually is the same. They have Mork, which I've raced at a lot, and is their kind of like premier facility as far as size and infrastructure and all that. There's not much going on there as far as like numbers and club days and things like that. And they have EMCC, and there's a couple of, like, Nathan Healy is probably the fastest young guy that's racing 8 scale. So maybe I missed Nathan. Nathan obviously is going pretty quick and was a 10 scale racer predominantly, so he could come there. But it's like Scotty said, they have a mega strong 10 scale scene in both states. Just not really a big 8 scale scene. Maybe that's purely down to the local clubs there. If the 8 scale club either doesn't exist or doesn't have a lot of action, they're racing at the clubs that do exist and have the action, which is 10 scale. So we're quite lucky that now we have Queensland's obviously probably the strongest state for top end talent and has been for a while. And it's no coincidence you guys have great clubs, a lot of clubs. And you get young guys coming through that Alex started in 10 scale. Kyle's been dominant there for like 170 years. But you've had great like existing races there, like Zach Ryan and guys of that age, Darren Perry, who still gets around and does really well, Jacko Beale. You got great 8 scale scene. WA has a great 8 scale scene as well. SA, we're fortunate. We've got a few young kids and we have one club, but we have a good 8 scale scene here. So I guess you're just seeing the natural progression of states that where the club or the scene that's dominant, that's where the kids are going to race. Some of those states, it happens to be 10 scale. So unless those 10 scale guys come and race 8 scale, there's no one really coming through from either state at the moment.
Yeah. I feel as if it might even be a bit of a situation, as you mentioned, that lack of clubs, lack of tracks. Could we potentially see it as a, build it and they come situation? Or do you just think that there's no clubs for a reason even? Like, is it just case that there's no real committees trying to bring something up for the market that just isn't there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't want to talk out of turn because I'm not involved in those. I'm involved in an industry level. Like, I talk to a lot of people, but I'm not involved in the club level scene there. All I can say is Victoria is one that, particularly for me, that one hurts. Because when I was younger, there was like when Matt Griffin and Mick Campion and all these guys that were like hardcore 8 scale, Johnny Bateman, who I don't even know if you know who that is, but Johnny
Know the
Bateman,
name, that's it.
legend, man. Legend of a guy. Same with Matty Griffin. I know he's still racing a bit of 10 scale, but back when I was younger, the 8 scale scene in Victoria was the best in the country, man. They had regional tracks. They had tracks in Mildura, Bendigo, Shepparton. I did a state title in Castlemaine. They had a track in Melbourne. Like, there was so many opportunities to race 8 scale on really good tracks. They held national titles. They had very competitive races. They had lots of people at club days. And it's just died off. And I don't really know why. Like, at the end of the day, build it and they'll come. They have it. They have a good track at Mork. They've held 2 national titles that I've been to, and with 2 different presidents. Alan Nankervis was president at one of the nationals. I'm not 100% sure who was president at the other one, but they were great events. Lots of entries. Like, they're very capable. Yeah, Shepparton held, I didn't go to that nationals. I went to a Vic titles at Shepparton, but Shepparton held a SICK nationals. Like, they've had a lot of really good clubs and they're almost all gone. So whether it's just, the cost pressure, people aren't attending, people just lose interest and do other things. I'm not 100% sure of the exact issue, but Victoria for me was a place I would go race once, twice, sometimes 3 times a year. And it was awesome. And now I know EMCC, probably from a numbers standpoint, are the biggest club in Victoria for 8 scale, which is great. That's not a track I've not been to. I'd like to go there. But yeah, their main track in Sunshine, Mork, is like, I haven't seen much going on there as far as events. So it's a bit sad to see, but there's got to be a reason. Their 10 scale scene's massive. So maybe those guys are racing 10th. Maybe they don't like 8 scale as much. Like, whatever sort of floats your boat, I suppose. But
yeah, no, exactly. All right, slight deviation from our original path, but yeah, really good question. But
got
yeah,
good questions, man.
Yeah, man. When I come onto a show, right, I've actually done a podcast with Scotty Guy before. When I come onto a show, my research / writing down of stuff is all of about 6 dot points. I literally sent them to Jeno before we came on. I said, this is all I have because I've had all of about 15 minutes to do my research on this. And research was as of nil. But man, Scotty Guy, when he comes up with a show, the amount of work that he puts into it, it's just unbelievable. So I know I've given him a few shout outs in the past, and if you haven't, and this is for any viewer, if you haven't listened to any of Scotty's podcasts, make sure you go and listen to them. If I can recommend one, it'd probably be the Josh Payne one, because that is a crack up of an episode.
Oh, would you want to listen to Payne? Just talk. I have a super quick toilet break. It's like the track.
Yeah, you're right.
Video.
Yeah.
Give me like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
On.
I'm going to disappear him for a second as well. Whoa, too big again. That one. So yeah, actually, a couple of things I wanted to quickly point out whilst Mr. Foord disappears for a while. Tim had a comment before. Now, Tim, you guys, probably anyone that was watching on the stream would have heard Tim's voice at moments during the stream as well. He helped out on the mic throughout the weekend, and I got to admit, me and Andrew had a chat beforehand. Tim was doing an epic job on the mic. Club down there, the Southern District Club is really lucky to have Tim on the mic. He backed me up by all means. I was cruising along in qualifying, and Tim jumped on the mic and he made it sound incredible. So put me to shame during qualifying, I'd say almost, if not probably realistically. So yeah, big thanks obviously to Tim helping out throughout the weekend. It was 4 days of, massive racing, that sort of side of things. So for Tim to jump on the mic and absolutely rock it was massive help for me. So big thanks to Tim throughout the weekend. Yeah, Scotty, once again, start the stopwatch on him. Yeah, a really good question there, and it would be good to see either more tracks pop up down there. I know someone bring up this before as well, the Eagle Point racetrack building up as well. That track is looking really interesting. They've been making some big improvements there, and I look forward to hopefully getting down there sooner or later, whether they have state titles, nationals, whatever happens down there. I'm really keen to get down there, either race call an event or just race an event down there. That looks really awesome. But yeah, it does seem very quiet down in New South Wales and Victoria at the moment. Yeah, thank you very much, Tim, once again. Let's see, he did a great job. Plus the only committee member who volunteered marshalling. Yeah, exactly as well. Like if Tim wasn't on the mic, he was on the track running around, and I jumped on the track one time out there and I decided to marshal a triple. And I've been going to the gym a little bit lately. I'm trimmed up a little bit, but man, I've never worked so hard as what I did on that triple. And I saw Tim pretty much every time he marshaled was out on that triple. And you best believe that he probably lost about 4 kilos that weekend. Not that he had anything to lose, but damn, that triple was a tough job to marshal. So thank you very much all throughout the weekend, Tim. Let's see, what do we got here as well? Jamie Cramp, Mr. Crampinator. Scotty G on the mic during a race is a thing of beauty. Yeah, Scotty on the mic as well, not just on the podcasting side of things, but actually on the mic at the race event. Have you ever listened to Scotty on the mic itself? You surely would have a couple of times by now, wouldn't you? He'd been race calling a few nationals and stuff in the past.
Scotty, when this is like 2009 or 10, Scotty actually sent me some photos like yesterday of when I ran for Hobea of my Harper 9 in Tassie. I was racing him in electric 8-scale buggy. And this is like back when the tech wasn't that good. And Scotty hosed me. Like I thought I had him in like A1. The dude come through, towed me in A2 and 3. He won the event, but I'm pretty sure he jumped on the mic throughout that weekend. I've heard Scotty G on the mic. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I like his take on RC. He's got a good outlook and good take on RC, which is nice.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Asked Fordy about his truggy comeback at ABC Pine Hills 2024.
No, it's not happening. Ben Braddon, who did a Stephen Bradbury in truggy, and just I don't know, he rolled around in 20th place if there was that many trucks, and then just come through and finish third. He really wants me to race truck, and I've got no idea why. Like, no idea why. Does he want to get lapped every 3 laps? I'm not sure, but I think he just G me up to race truggy. I believe at Pine Hills, Ben is only bringing truggies, electric truggy, nitro truggy. That's it. That's his specialty.
That's cool. I like that actually. That's taking truggy racing to a next level, and we need more of it. Actually, we need to see more truggies.
He takes truggy real serious.
Yeah, I love it.
I had to jump on the mic in the main. His pit man was telling him to push. I jumped on and said, "Don't push." Like Ben doesn't have a push button; he has a cruise button. So just cruise, mate. You'll get there. And I think he got Liam. Liam Jones broke, and he got Liam like on the last lap of the truck main for third. So it was pretty cool.
Come back to Victoria, New South Wales. Vishu, he said weather could be an issue with Victoria. 1/8 club days in Vic. Kilo is an oil and can run during some bad weather. Yeah, I guess that'd be another point as well. Like Victorian weather.
That's a great point, man. Because in one of the nationals we did in Victoria, I forget the year, but at Mork, they used a soil binding agent. I don't know. I think it was called Dust Check. I believe they use it in the mines to bind up the road so the dust isn't as bad.
Yep.
But that was like a Mark's point. it was a great point. It allowed them to run in the rain. Like, it was similar to oil when it got wet. But yeah, it was a, I think it's an issue. Like, there's a lot of rain in Adelaide. Before we oiled, we would lose like almost half the year with rain. Whereas now, like, if it's raining, you can't race. But if it's rained, you can go and sweep puddles and you still hold a club day. So it was a good choice.
Jamie Cram actually beat you there, Scotty Guyatt. Got Dust X out. So literally almost exactly the same comment. But Jamie is pretty sure of it. So I'm going to give the point to Jamie on that one.
Dust check, Dust X.
X.
That was the stuff, but you mixed it with water and like hosed it on, and it found the surface. It was a sick like surface to run on. There wasn't tons of tire wear. It was awesome. I don't think they do it anymore. Yeah, EMCC is oiled, so it's a good way to get around the wet months. You can still race, which is nice.
Yeah, failed experiment, Logan. What did we use, Crampy? We used something similar as well. Can't remember what we used. Anyway,
can I ask you a question? Why?
Yeah.
Like, I've been to Logan a couple of times, and I always loved it.
Mm.
The dirt there, every time I went there, was sick. Is it just by coincidence that it was sick, or does it take a lot of work to keep good?
It's real tough work. Because it's such a natural surface, the actual dirt at Logan is very silty. It's very like almost soft dirt. It's good to work with in a lot of ways. And yeah, Crampy just came up as well. We were on the committee at the same time. The dirt is so silty that a small amount of rain can wash away quite a lot of dirt. It can move the dirt around quite a lot. So it does take a lot of work to sort of keep it in real good condition. In Logan, we tend to find you get sort of in between of extreme heat and just torrential downpours. Like at the moment, we're in the torrential downpour where we'll probably get 150 mils over the next day and a half. It'll require, a couple of days worth of work to clean up the jump faces and, all that side of things. But the committee there has always been pretty strong, especially in the last sort of 5-10 years. And, that they usually clean it up and do a really good job at getting it running. Actually, the last probably 3 years since, the last time I probably raced there, to be honest, the current committee have done an awesome job getting a heap more clay there in the way that it all runs off the track a lot better now. So, the really strong committee there, and they've done a heap of work on that place. But yeah, it is definitely a lot of work to keep that in raceable condition, to be perfectly honest.
Every time I see a big event held there, obviously the committee's put in a lot of work to get it, but it looks like the most gangster surface. And when I've driven there, I loved it. Like, it was sick. It was like low bite, but you could slide the car. It stayed smooth, the events I was there for. But oil or like surface treatment is tough. It takes time for the people who are putting it on to kind of work it out. So I can understand that. But you guys get like shit tons of rain too. So it's like extra difficult. You guys get way more. Like, if we got 150 mil in a day, man, half of Adelaide's floating down the road. Yeah. It's like a bad day for us. We had a couple of days last year where we got shitloads of rain. It was like 40 mil across 24 hours. That's tons. Queensland love it. They do. They do. They definitely do.
Logan, the Logan track itself, and I'll go through a little bit of information about the Logan track. Like, since we were on the committee there, I would say the track is probably flooded, and I'm talking like properly underwater flooded, about 3-4 times. 2011, 2012. It happened again, I think, about 4 years ago. The last one,
creek that runs behind it that fills and then floods it. Yeah, I've seen photos. It's mental.
Yeah, I'll try and bring them up as we're talking about it as well. But yeah, the amount of work that goes into it after like these rain events that seem to just swing on through, it's just crazy. Because the last time, I've never seen it as high as it was. But literally 90% of the track was underwater. Here we go. If I can bring this up, it gets get a picture of what we're talking about here. Let's see. Hopefully this brings it up. So this was the Logan Club / track in 2022. So yeah, about a year and a half, 2 years ago from now, So March the 1st in 2022, and literally the entire track completely flooded. That's the on-road track, by the way. The on-road track is about 2 meters lower than the off-road track.
Yeah.
So you could
That's
literally
cool.
go snorkeling in the on-road track.
That's
So
that is not
that-
good. Oh my god. I've pitted
that's
in
your
those
pit?
pits. That's hot.
Yeah. It got higher than that as well. It literally got to the almost on top of the benches. And we're talking meter plus bench heights there as well. So that one was a big one. There's the poor old roller in the background there. So anyone that's wondering and stuff, that roller did not work for quite a while after that.
Yeah, that's cooked, man. That's up.
Yeah. So yeah, Logan has some I wouldn't say issues when it comes to rainfall, but the committee definitely has to be heavily onto it when it comes to the rain. But yeah,
Oil won't fix that.
Yeah, no, oil does not fix literally a meter of water. 2018, yeah, that was another big one as well. I think that was when we were on the committee at that point, and the track didn't quite go that far underwater. But still, like it just seems to wash away all the silt out of the surface, and you're just left with this rocky surface, and you have to till it back over, and it's just a bit of a nightmare. Nonetheless,
when it's good, it's great.
Yeah, man, like
whenever I've been there, I've only ever had amazing things to say about that
awesome
whole
track.
place. Good.
Yeah, awesome track, awesome facility. You know, they got the on-road track there as well, and they sort of we change over between them. Danny Morgan, solid sliding engine mount specialist. Oh geez. Freddy chasing snakes. Yeah, there was a snake literally cruising through the pits as I went to check up on flood day number 1. I tried to catch it, but it swam off before I got to it.
There was a snake at Sunny Coast Nats as well.
Yeah, actually, that was a good one, man.
Yeah.
That was a massive carper python. He just would cruise out every day. Oh,
yeah,
man.
we're like, there's a snake. We're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Keep racing. let's walk a meter away from it and continue racing. Pretend it's not there.
That's tough, man.
That's tough. Classic Australia. All right. Back into it. We'll go through results and we'll touch back on people that sort of I guess surprises, even though a lot of them we sort of expected to be either quick or at the top. Nonetheless, they were either further up than we expected or just straight dominant. We'll bring this back on up again. So yeah, McBride straight to the top, and it like quick from the get-go as well. Were you sort of surprised with how quick McBride was from the get-go? No, you were.
No,
you knew
not at all.
Yeah.
There is no surprises there at all.
Yeah,
there's years there when he won his first national title. There's like this. Sorry about the burps. There's like this. Oh, can he do it again? Yeah, he can.
Yep.
And he did every year. And regardless of the track you went to, the surface, didn't matter. The cream of the crop always rise. So no, I wasn't surprised at all. It's his type of track too.
Yeah.
Like he loves a technical track, a track that's like real corner speed, rewards accuracy. It had Kyle McBride written all over it. So not surprised at all.
Literally only one round where he missed the TQ, which was round number 5. Were you at least surprised by the consistency of just straight up dominance in a way?
No, not at all.
No,
not at all. Kyle doesn't surprise me. He's incredibly talented. Watching his car, which I got to do in some of the seeding rounds, but I didn't get to do in the qualifying. But I watched it back on the stream. Watching his car, even when it looked a bit hard to drive, Kyle still drove it immaculately. So no, he was the least surprising result out of the whole weekend, I think. Yeah.
Oh, just massively consistent throughout the weekend. As I mentioned, only missing one round TQ when it comes to nitro buggy. The car looked awesome from the get-go, and I had talked to Tony because we were staying in the same place. I said, man, Kyle is absolutely on fire this week, and he's going to be damn near impossible to beat, and that pretty much turned out to be on point. Alex Bernardic obviously coming out from qualifying in second spot, so end up going into the semi-odd final. Sorry, the semi-even final. Kyle going into the semi-odd final. Noble in the 3 spot. Noble had a mixed weekend, I would say. How would you sort of describe Noble's weekend?
To be honest, I didn't really pay much attention to his results or watch a lot of the electric racing, and he's in my nitro race. A
Yeah.
little bit of a mixed bag. I
Mm.
think watching videos back of his car, I don't think that the Techno looked as comfortable on the high traction as it does in the lower grip tracks.
Yeah.
Watching him in New Zealand, for example, he was giving it to Lutz. The
Yep.
car looked awesome. Our track is so far out of an outlier as far as grip is concerned. The car didn't look super comfy, and like I know from personal experience, if you don't have a comfortable car and you miss the tire choice, you can look a lot slower than maybe your talent deserves. So, not to say that he's not incredibly talented. He's probably the third most talented driver in Australia. The top 3 there are the 3 most talented, I think. But yeah, I think the track probably didn't suit his car that well, which is why
Yep.
he maybe wasn't contending for round TQs or a little bit closer to Alex and Kyle through the qualifying. I think it's pretty much down to the car.
Yeah. No, I agree there. Some random fella in the 4 spot had a good run, I would say, as well. Mr. Foord
Yeah.
coming through qualifying.
Yeah,
Did fall apart a little bit after that.
literally just
Yeah.
slid out the way, and
Yeah.
then just stopped engaging. But no, it was good. Qualifying was good. I started off with a second in Q1.
Yep.
I think I got another second maybe in Q6, and then I had 2 5s. So it was a pretty good qualifying run. I basically spent the whole of qualifying just messing with tires, figuring out what was comfortable, what was fast, what I could get away with. By the end of the weekend, I pretty much figured out exactly what the compound and tire choice was best for the track conditions. Yeah, I was pretty happy, man. 4th is behind those 3 guys who are more talented than I am. I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, and great result. Yeah, so you had a 2 5s, 2 7s, and a third for the final round, which probably saved you a fair bit, because if you were relying on the 5s, you'd been a fair way further down. But no, that third in the final round, bumps you right back up.
Yeah,
because the points actually go up pretty quickly after that. They jump quite a lot. Obviously, the top sort of 4 drivers stealing the majority of the low points, and they were sort of cycling around a fair bit throughout the qualifying rounds, because it starts to jump really quickly after that, and it's almost like a separation of the top 3, then say the rest in a way, the top 20. So after that, Aaron Dexter came home in P5. Making the trip over from Western Australia. I've talked about it a few times. The travel needed for Western Australian drivers is tricky, to say the least. The fact that for them to race at a state title other than their home state title is going to cost them realistically probably over $1,000 just in flights at least. That's not counting
more
even
than that
ticket, man.
beer.
Say again.
They spend more than that on beer at the event. The WA guys. So yeah, it's an expensive weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, big ups to Aaron. Aaron's always quick as well. He's one of the sort of people that we picked to be up there, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Jaden Edmonds, 6, Zach Foster. We're going to talk more about him in a minute as well. P7. Zach Ryan, 8. Craig Lawton in P9. Now, definitely a name that sort of surprised me, I'd say, a little bit, but at the same time it shouldn't, because Craig's always quick as well. He's one of those drivers similar to Darren Perry, where he's just anonymously driving well, and he'll just be there or thereabouts when it comes to, say, race time.
Craig is disgustingly talented. It's frustrating, and if everyone knew how little Craig races, and he races bugger all, and he puts even less work into his cars. Like it actually makes you sick how good he is at driving a toy car. It doesn't surprise me. In the main too, if he hadn't had a nut fall off in the main, he was on for a podium. He was rolling around right behind Zach. So yeah, Craig is when I was like younger, Craig won everything. Like Kyle won the nationals. Craig won a few Truggy Nationals, but every state title that Kyle didn't come to, Craig was right there. So, yeah, imagine if Craig actually tried. It would. He's very talented, so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right, we'll quickly brush over the other classes. Electric buggy, let's see. There we go. McBride, once again, really dominant through electric buggy. Missed out on 2 TQs. That was it. Literally got all other rounds. So 4-round TQs for McBride. Once again, just dominant realistically in electric buggy. Bernardzik coming home strong in second. Once again, this is qualifying. And Noble, once again, P3. So same top 3. Very similar results when it comes down to TQing rounds. The whole works once again. After that, it does change around a fair bit. But once again, top 3. Very, very similar once again. Truggy was a mixed bag. We ended up having 17 cars in the final, which I thought was awesome. I'm surprised we managed to fit them all up there.
Yeah, dude.
But,
Truggy was the most interesting one by a mile.
Yeah.
Felix was he was the class of the field through the whole week. There was a couple of times where Joel was giving it to Felix. A couple of crashes kind of held him back, I think. But like after Felix, man, just pick one out of a hat. There was a bunch of fast guys all battling for final spots and qualifying positions. It was actually really good to watch. Yeah.
No, and as you mentioned there as well, Joel had a really good qualifier at one stage. I remember we were following both Felix and Joel pretty much at the same time on track. They were side by side just about. I think Joel was about second and a half behind on time, but you could see his pace was right there and was trying to get back in front of Felix to try and steal a TQ over him. Felix did end up taking all 6 TQ runs. But man, it was tight, especially a few times through qualifying. And, Joel and Liam also not far off when it came down to it over the 10-minute runs and stuff. So any
Liam's
sort of mistake
I don't know how much practice Liam does, but Liam's very talented as well. So
yeah, he is a Victorian driver.
He is a Victorian. Him and his dad, Phil, you don't find better blokes than those guys. They were awesome. They helped us out a lot, actually. They camped out at the track and did security when our original Winnebago fell through. On the Thursday, man. Oh, sorry, on the Wednesday, one of our guys went to pick up the caravan. He was staying there doing security. The caravan brake controller didn't work with his car that he was towing it with. So when he'd indicate, the brakes would lock up. He drove 2 hours away to pick it up, got like a minute down the road, indicated the brakes on the caravan lock up. He's like, I can't get this back 2 hours to Adelaide. And the Joneses came through and saved the day. So very appreciative to Liam and his dad, Phil. And Liam did incredibly well. He unfortunately broke in the main, but he was this. I think he was probably the second best driver in the truck class for most of the event. There was some times where he was getting beaten by Joel or even Dan. But yeah, he was consistently probably the second best.
Yeah. Okay. We'll jump on over to final results. Any sort of surprises from those guys at all? Or any sort of picks that you had from qualifying that you expect to have been a little bit higher?
No, not really. In electric buggy, Jack McMillan and Jaden, so 2 SA guys, they're incredibly talented. Jaden did really well I think Jaden actually TQ'd around over Kyle in e-buggy. So he did super well. Yeah. He just wasn't consistent enough, I think, through qualifying. So this is maybe a harsh expectation. I think Jaden still did really well, but I expected him to be a little bit closer. I think they had a couple of issues through qualifying, which doesn't help. And Jack's an incredible driver. Very, very talented. Only pretty new to 8 scale, really. More of a 10 scale guy. I thought Jack would have been a little bit higher up, but Jack, even though he's a local, he was in Keilor racing for the pre-Nats Club Day. So I think he did really well considering. But him and Jaden are incredibly talented. So I think that there was results through the weekend where you got to see that talent.
Actually, one thing I wanted to quickly chat about as well, and it's something that I've never seen before, not just at a nationals event, but just an 8 scale event in general. was the actual amount of wings that were coming off of cars. Now, I've seen
Yeah.
possibly one in my entire racing 8-scale side of career. But for some reason, over the Nationals weekend, I would say there would have been in excess of about 15 wings that broke or
Yeah.
fell off. I think we sort of had a chat whilst we were at the track, and we sort of put it down to the triple, the cars possibly like slapping off the triple and the wings just copping a pounding. What else could there have been that was causing just the wings to literally fall off of cars?
I think that
Oh.
because there was option lines in the jump sections, the fast lines were really high risk. You could do them, but if you made a mistake, especially like on the back straight, I know guys hit the tree. Like
Yeah.
you were hitting stationary objects at very fast speeds.
That
I
don't
think,
move.
like, yeah, dude, they don't move, your wing moves. So I think the track, it was a combination really of there being lots of very big jumps and also the option lines that were faster. If you messed them up, you were having a big crash. So I think that was probably what ejected a few wings.
Yeah. Oh, it was wacky. I've never seen that many wings come off in my life.
It was a tough track, man. You could roll around that track and do the safe line and be pretty safe, really.
Mm.
Like you'd be off the pace speed wise, but when you were doing the fast lines, there was a big risk reward decision.
Yeah.
And it, like, I personally really like that. I like that there's something on offer for the faster guys to do to gain time, but by no means were any of those option lines easy to do. You had to be very accurate. Even the back straight, you had to be, this is in Nitro. In E-Buggy, it was a bit easier because you had the extra power.
Yep.
But in Nitro, you had to be, that back straight, you had to be on that roller to clear into the gap, into the trees. If you missed it, you were casing the knuckle. And then, like, if you case that knuckle or you're offline, you're hitting something, a sleeper, a fence, a tree, another car. Like, it's happening at full throttle as well. So, it was a pretty gnarly track to be consistent on. Be consistently fast was even more difficult. And there was a lot of risk on that very fast line, which was cool. I think it's cool.
No, we saw it as
do it.
Yeah, we saw it with the difference when we had like the leaders coming through, especially, McBride, Alex and stuff coming around for lapping drivers, whether it be qualifying or racing. The difference in line of that back straight was a massive one because it felt like a very narrow back straight. We still had, it was probably about a 3.5 meter back straight, but when you're up in the stand, it probably feels like all of a car's width wide.
No, it was over 4.
Over
so
4 meters, exactly.
The minimum width. The whole track was 4 at
meters.
minimum.
Yep.
Some of the sections were over 4 meters. But yeah, like you said, the back straight's so far away and it feels like it's 2 meters wide.
Yeah.
And you're doing it at full throttle and you're doing a jump section that requires like pinpoint accuracy. So it was really hard to nail that every time. And even like I was doing the back jump most of the time. You make one mistake in there and it's a pretty gnarly crash. Yeah, it's happening at full throttle. So there's not a lot. You're kind of a passenger at that point. So
Jacksonville banana car.
Yeah, he bananaed the chassis and then just
literally bananaed his car.
I just bent it straight, massaged it straight, and he kept going. So yeah, it was cool. I actually, it was funny, even though there was that high risk in those sections. A lot of the top guys that I spoke to, like before we go up for a run or while we're sitting there chatting, we're warming our cars up, like everyone's frothing the fact that they're available. They're like, it's sick because you actually have to make a choice, let your pride to the side for a second and go, can I do this for 10 minutes in qualifying? If I make a mistake, which is a high probability, am I sacrificing a good run for a line that's half a second faster a lap?
Yeah.
Is that worth it? You saw guys like Craig Lawton, for example, that didn't do it, were very safe, did really well. Then you see on the other end of the spectrum, Kyle taking all the risks and doing it very well. And then there's a bunch of guys in the middle, guys who were sending it, making 1 or 2 mistakes a run, guys that weren't sending it, making no mistakes. It really played into how good can you do it? How accurate can you be? Is it worth it? It's really cool.
Yeah. No, it's awesome to have that option line. I know we've seen it a couple of nationals before, but it really good to see it again for what made for a very exciting national titles. All right,
Yeah,
back
broken
on
cars.
over to the results.
Starting racing,
Yeah,
dude.
man, and it claimed some victims, that's for sure.
Yes.
E-buggy. So yeah, McBride taking the overall with a win in A1. A2 was a weird one. It came down to who had a battery that was virtually charged and wouldn't explode on you. So A2 literally only had about a 12-minute break in between from the schedule. So a lot of drivers end up having some issues when it came down to batteries. Unfortunately, Christian's battery just decided to let go quite literally.
That's Martin's fault.
Martin's fault.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's the mechanic. So
Yeah.
that rests purely on Martin's shoulders.
Did
you see the photos of him holding it on fire?
Yeah, and he was pulling the battery out and everything. That man is
He's a boilermaker by trade, but he's South African too, so he doesn't give a shit the car's on fire. He's like, stop being on fire now, holding it. Like, those photos, man, I lost my shit when I saw him. Unreal. He's just there like, stop being on fire. What are you doing? Just holding it, I love it.
I knew he'd be typing away. I knew he was watching on. I knew he'd be typing away, ready for a comment.
Yeah. He's paying attention, but that was cool.
Yeah.
It sucked for Christian because
Christian
is incredibly talented, but also Martin's fault. So sort it out,
Mark. Unfortunately, he also mentioned, or Christian mentioned, that might not have his EP buggy for the Philippine Masters / the ABC round round 2 over in the Philippine Masters.
Oh no!
So he'll probably be running Truggy. I'm sure Martin will probably come back to us with that one.
I thought that was what Martin was supposed to be racing. Truggy.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Martin's been relegated to complete pitman again.
Well, you stick with what you're good at. Martin, he was an exceptional driver, but his son's definitely talented. So maybe just pick guy. No electric cars too. Less chance of a fire, which is good for the wall hunters.
Alex coming home in second, Caleb third. Edmund's having a strong run. EP once again, as we were talking before, a little bit inconsistent when it came down to it. McMillan, once again, as you were saying before, P5. So that was a strong result. As you mentioned, it hasn't done a huge amount of running at all in 8 scale. I've seen him racing 10 scale a fair bit, as you say, like a really, really talented driver. Previously, I believe he started off on road and then switched over to off road, to my knowledge at least.
Anything he's ever done, he's been pretty elite at. He's got he's got Alex and Kyle level throttle control.
Yep.
Like when you're at a club day and you're marshalling his 8 scale electric, and it's just like butter. It's very impressive how much throttle control he has. So
yep. Have made a plan with EP thanks to a few good men. There we go. So EP will be running over in Philippines, which is good.
Crisis averted.
Martin can drive Truggy.
And hopefully that was our bet. Martin's going to win. So
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll be watching on. Okay. Back to results. So yeah, top 10 end up being Zach Foster just outside top 5 in 6th overall. Jackson Beale in P7. Brady Pickett at 8. Brady had a good run, I would say. Brady had a really good run over in down in Southern Districts.
He's a great driver, man.
Yeah.
I think he just won some 10 scale WA state championships week or two before 8 scale nationals.
Yep. So. He had a great run over in Western Australia. With a bit of 10 scale fun.
TLR next to his name there because he was running TLR, which was great. I think he might have been the top TLR guy behind Aaron. So
yeah. Nathan Healy 9. Sorry again.
Overall, Aaron had heaps of issues in electric. The car, I think, broke it in one, and the battery dumped in another one. Didn't have a good event in electric. That's all right.
Yeah. Cadetti running the Sparko in P10.
That's a good result because he hadn't ever run. He'd done one 8 scale race meet ever, and he had not ever driven that car. So it was a brand new car, brand new track at a nationals, I think Anthony did quite well, actually, given the circumstances. Anthony's
Yep.
also incredibly talented. Very good on-road racer. One
Yep.
of the best in Australia at on-road. I think one of the best 10-scale electric off-road racers as well, although doesn't travel a ton for 10-scale off-road.
Yep.
But yeah, very talented. Had a lot up against him, really. Brand new car, setups, new track. So I think he did really well. I think if you asked him, he would be disappointed because he's a competitor. So he'd want to be up there a bit higher. And I think if you gave him like 4 or 5 club meetings to figure out the brand new car, he would have been up higher. So he did quite well given the circumstances.
I'm pretty sure Coretti was another one that I think it was another broken wing. I'm pretty sure it happened fairly early in one of the electric buggy mains. It possibly was race 2, where his wing was quite literally falling off from about the 2 or 3 minute mark. And he managed to keep racing. From what I remember, he had a really good run in that round, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And somehow managed to, it was one of his better results, I think, with a wing that was literally falling off of his car. And I know Jackson Beale did a very similar thing as well. So,
yeah, that's impressive.
It could have even been his 8th overall or something like that. But yeah, I'm sure it's on the stream. If you go back and check out the stream, it was, Beale said that was Jacko. Now I'm pretty sure, I know that Jacko definitely had one. That was a crack up. His wing was literally 90 degrees for the majority of his race as well. So he did virtually the exact same thing. But I'm pretty sure Coretti had one as well, where he had to race for literally like 5-6 minutes at least with his wing either falling off or might have been his shock, or it was something pretty major. And he just kept
I'm sure
driving.
you're correct, because I think that was in the B main.
Right. Okay.
Because I remember someone calling out like his car's busted, and he was still circulating and doing quite well.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. It would have been the B main to get the bump up spots. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. I didn't watch it, but I remember the commentary over the mic being like his car's busted and he's still in a bump spot. So
yeah, no, you're 100% correct on that one. I'm glad you can recall it. I was watching every race, apparently just blanked it out of my mind.
He's a good driver, Anthony. He's very talented. So
there we go.
It was nice to see him do 8 scale. Like he hasn't done it. Oh, he's even watching B1. There you go. Wasn't he, mate?
B1.
He's a very talented driver. If you've ever seen him drive on road, very exceptional. So I'm sure with a little bit more time on that car and just in 8 scale in general, the competition level is so high. Like even if you're talented, you can't just jump in and probably finish where your talent lets you. You need a bit of time to get used to it. So I'm sure with a bit of time with that Sparko kit, I'm sure he's got a car now, so he'll come do some club racing and some local races that he will be right up there with Jaden and Jack battling in electric. Yeah.
Coretti, remind me what it was that was going on, whether it was your wing or your shock, or I definitely remember something. I think it was your wing. But yeah, just remind me. And also let us know how the actual Sparko felt throughout the weekend, because you'd have been easily the highest placing Sparko, if not one of the only ones there. He might have been
the only one, man.
Yeah.
I think, which is even harder. If he's the only guy there with the car, he has no one else to lean on for experience. So
yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. Definitely needed to learn car and tires, but enjoy the one experience. Yeah, so that pretty much covers what I literally just asked. He was already all over it.
It's a lot get back to... It'd be like me going to an on-road event but in mod and being like, I got a brand new car and no experience, and thinking you're gonna you can drive well, and really you just need to understand what's going on. It's a lot of information to take in, especially because we're not control tire too. I think he runs sweep, so and no one locally runs, not that I'm aware of, runs sweep really. So he wouldn't have even had the tire info, compounds, tread patterns. He would have had to been guessing a fair bit. So all things considered, new car, no tire experience, no experience on that layout at a nationals. He did really well, and give him a bit more time, I think he'll do excellent.
Yeah. Over to Truggy.
You might wrap this. I'm just going to quickly to the toilet, man.
Yeah, you're right.
This is like break. The track walk, Mitch. It's 15 minutes to an hour.
No, I said it'll be a short one. That's gone out the window. All right, we'll disappear him for a second again. Not that it makes much of a difference by the looks of it. Truggy, once again, as we mentioned before, Felix had it wrapped. Like he was super quick all weekend, taking all around TQs. For second, the battle was on though. Couple of issues for power. And in the end, Ronald Mayer coming up all the way to P2. Good run for Ronald Mayer. Benny Braddon, as we're talking about before, P3, so good run there. Liam Jones, believe, had a few issues coming back in P4. And Savage Sam having a good run in P5. 17 car final. I'm surprised we managed to fit 17 drivers up on that stand, including the camera at the opposite end from where I was standing, plus obviously where I was standing. So we managed to fit pretty much 20 people up on that stand. It was packed, absolutely jam-packed. So yeah, we managed to fit 17 drivers up there. After the first lap, we did lose a few, but they sort of intermittently dropped back in here and there. Yeah, so 17 drivers. So Joel Power and fortunately 16th overall. Mark Andrew, I was expecting to have a good run. Didn't have a good run. End up dead last, I guess. So yeah, he broke pretty early as well. Mark Andrew having a rough weekend. Had a chat to him at the airport, and yeah, not the best weekend. We'll go over to senior. Senior race was great. Some of the old boys having a run. Let's get Foordy back in here. There we go, Mr. Foord. Seniors, the old boys, straight out of retirement village, straight to the racetrack for a lot of these guys. Craig Lawton wrapping it up, having a great run once again, as we were talking about before. Made it into the main show when it comes to Nitro Buggy, but took the win away in the seniors race.
Yeah, he's the most talented old guy for sure.
Yeah. Gillett coming up second. Wasn't that far behind, showing a lap behind, but I think from what I recall, majority of the race he was pretty close in it. Gillett's a good one as well. He came over to the US with us with Paney, and they had a blast over in the US, 10 scale racing.
He also doesn't race a lot, like at all.
Exactly.
He doesn't like the 10 scale guy. When I was growing up, Gillett was dominant. When those 10 scale guys came to 8 scale back when I was a kid, Paney, Ari, Gillett, Craig, they were like Griffin. They were all the fast guys were 10 scale guys. So Gillett, for the amount he races, did really well.
Yep.
Kev Lewis in third.
Yeah.
The fastest POM in the group.
Yeah, and we actually had a sit down dinner with him on, I think it would have been Saturday night, and he wanted a ranking from oldest to youngest. Now, I'm pretty sure we proposed like a golf, what's it called, where like certain drivers start. Yeah, like a handicap system where the old guys get the biggest head start to shuffle them around and stuff. Oh, I don't know.
Kev looks like he hasn't aged in the last 15 years that I've known him. But Kev doesn't travel a lot much either. So yeah. I know he races locally and he's super fast at Wollongong. That's sick. Kevy with third. He wasn't on the podium. He didn't stay for the podium. He must have to catch.
That's right. Yeah, he had to run off. Darren Shane Smith.
Shane was the fastest Victorian.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, first Victorian. There you go. Victorian racing on the up.
Gavin White, also from Victoria, made the top 10. So still representing pretty strong for Victorians, considering they don't have.
What have they got? Two in the top 10.
Yeah, for seniors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good result. Gavin White. That's it. Gav doesn't race a lot either. No. He actually was telling me when we're blowing our cars off, he the last time he raced was in Adelaide again, and it was I think he came for the state titles maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he doesn't race a lot. They just love coming to SA and racing, and they're a great family. Tanner, their son, is very talented. Gavin's wife is incredibly good in the sprint car. So, I don't know if you know that, but she races like full-size vehicles. So
no, I didn't know that.
She was telling me she'd way rather race a sprint car than a toy car. Much better in that. Yeah,
look, I probably would agree, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know that at all. No, that's awesome.
No, she's a gun in a. I don't know if she races a sprint car or it's a midget. I'm not super up with my my oval racing, but yeah, she races full size stuff. Was only racing it like a couple of weeks ago. So
Yeah, right.
that's pretty cool. They're a cool family, actually, the Whites.
Yeah, that's awesome. Over to junior, Zach Foster, really strong once again. I think we probably expected this once he, qualified into pretty much directly into the AMA, and I guess you could almost say, other than the semi-finals and stuff. Really strong from the get-go. Pretty sure he led from the get-go. I think he might have even flamed out at one stage.
He did.
I have a feeling, yeah. He might have dropped
He flamed out and then come
behind. Yeah, he might have. I think he dropped behind for a couple of laps, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was
Lawton,
a flame out or a fuel issue or like what the problem was, but yeah, he had an issue. Connor, actually, Craig's son, was in the lead, and then Zach
Yeah, that's right.
managed to get through and win the race. So.
Yeah, I think Elliott even managed to jump in front of Zach for a while as well, but probably was only a few laps. And yeah, so nonetheless, Zach had a strong run there. So one of the most memorable probably parts of the weekend happened out of the juniors race, and I've never in my life seen this before. I'm pretty sure it was Elliott's car, wasn't it?
It was the glow igniter.
Yeah, the glow igniter is being stuck inside of the motor itself whilst he was just lapping around, and we have it on the footage once again. Check it out in the stream for the junior final.
It was sick,
rack
man.
up.
Yeah,
And
he was running a TLR twist lock igniter.
Yeah,
and like they're actually so Elliott's very young. Him and his dad Chris come over from WA. His first nationals was the Perth Nats, which isn't even like 6 months prior, right? And he did really well, drove awesome for such a young kid. But I was marshalling that race, and I remember seeing this car do it was like 5 or 6 laps, man. With
it'd have been more than that. Yeah, it'd have been
Twist
way
locked
more.
on. Those TLR igniters just stay doing their job, man.
Man, he rolled over a few times, and he pretty much helped marshal himself because it was sticking right out of the car. It pretty much made himself go back onto his wheels.
Yeah,
it was just stuck in there. Yeah.
That poor glow plug hanging on for dear life.
Luckily, he didn't take any big hits because I'm sure that could have been pretty catastrophic if it took a big hit to the roof. But yeah,
I was watching it, man. I'm like, he must be driving so clean. That igniter has not moved in it felt like 5 or 6 laps. It was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it was a fair while. It was definitely one of the most memorable things from the weekend.
Yeah, I've never seen that before either.
Yeah, actually, Scott's jumped on and said trying a 10-minute run for the AMA, and so trying something different when it came to the main, which is why he flamed out. So there you go.
That makes sense. There you go.
Yeah,
may as well try something. Yep.
Good. Elliott in the 3 spot, Tanner White once again in P4, and Max Tander. He's one of your boys from Western Australia, the TLR driver.
He's a character. He's not any good at pool. I flogged him at pool Sunday night. So.
And when I'm talking earlier, we were talking about the wings coming off. I'm pretty sure there's probably about 2 races where his wing didn't come off. He was one of the ones where his wing was consistently coming off.
He come over to me after one of the qualifying runs, and he had hit the tree on the back straight at full throttle, and he had snapped a hinge pin, which those hinge pins will bend, but they never snap.
Yeah,
he had
right.
Destroyed a hinge pin, and I was like, what happened? He's like, dude, I hit the tree high up, flat out, arm straight into the tree, snapped the hinge pin. But he had some pretty hectic stuff going on, and I think he broke 2 wing mounts. But he drove around in that junior race without a wing mount. The wing mount was half off.
Yeah,
and he kept driving around and still finished 4th. So
yeah,
good job, Maxie.
Yeah, I come home in 5th.
Good
run. What's that?
Do you know how old Max is?
Man, looking at his haircut, I would say he's probably 23.
He's 14.
14.
He's taller than me, man. He must be 6'2".
Yeah.
He's 14. He's built like a brick shit house. He's a great kid, actually. Him and his dad, Leon, got a lot of time for them. Good people.
Yeah, no, they are an awesome family. Max, he always comes up to me whenever I'm at an event, and he introduces himself again, and you can tell he's going to be in for a good weekend. But yeah, so rest of the main there, both Jared Cook and TJ having a rough run there. I was expecting those 2 boys to have a good run there, both from Queensland, good Queensland drivers. Jared Cook from Western Australia National, he was a bump up master. I'm pretty sure he would have had probably almost double the amount of race time that the majority of other drivers. He bumped up from like the D main in electric buggy all the way to the A main or something like that. And I think he bumped from the 16th final into, I think possibly even the semi-final in Nitro. So the kid would literally have been standing for probably about 8 hours or something in one day on that driver's stand.
Him and TJ both lost drive in that junior
Yeah.
main. TJ is incredibly talented. He's one of the guys we look after. Him and his dad, great people. Really have a lot of time for him. TJ is very talented. They have, I don't know if you know this, but they have the best home track I've ever seen existing. Undercover, proper track with jumps and tech on it. It's super cool. But his dad, James, does a lot of work to make sure TJ's racing is fun. So it sucked to see him have an issue. He would have done really well. He's quite fast, as well as Jared. So
no, I'm desperate to go out to their little home track, and have a look around, because that is epic.
It's cool.
All right. Incredible. We'll go to the last chance qualifier, probably one of the most exciting races, I would say, of the weekend. It usually always is an exciting race, but it was it was stacked, man. It was probably the most stacked last chance qualifier I've ever seen, especially with a couple of drivers down the order that were likely to make it on through if not for other things going on. But McBride starting, pretty sure he was dead last, I think he was dead last, wasn't he? There's no pause coming into this race. And making it through. It took a few laps though, because you were having a great run at the start, along with who else was up there? There was Ben Panic, who had a good start as well. I think Healy was pretty quick up the front as well.
Liam Jones as well. Kev Lewis. There was Shane Kelly. There was a battle up there for the lead for a bit. It was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was probably one of the most enjoyable races to call for the weekend. Just seeing there was so many quick drivers spread throughout the field, and watching them sort of cycle almost all the way through to the front, and then just turn over the lead, and then the next faster guy would come back up, and then McBride would just pop out, and then he would just disappear.
I like the LCQ. It's cool because the semi-final format is unforgiving. If you have an issue, which both Kyle and myself both had issues in good spots in semis, and then your weekend's over. So the LCQ adds that little bit of extra incentive. It from a spectator perspective, it's great when like 2 or 3 top guys bomb out and they have to battle for the spot. It sucks as a driver. I've used the LCQ. The first year it was implemented was in Victoria at a national title, and I was running second behind Kyle, had a steering servo die, and then had to start dead last in the LCQ, and I managed to win that and make the main. So I was pretty grateful that it existed. Didn't quite work out in my favour this year. Be nice if Kyle just didn't have an issue. And but otherwise, it's still an exciting race. I think it's cool to give the guys one more shot to sort of make it.
Yeah, exactly right. Kyle McBride taking the win in that one pretty comfortably in the end. Ben Panic having a good run, just missing out in P2. Shane Kelly, Nathan Healy, yourself. Darren Cornwell as well. He was pretty quick. I think he was pretty close to the front for a little bit as well. And we may as well quickly touch on EP8. Obviously, McBride taking the win. I can't remember if we went over this before or not. Alex coming home second. Yep. All right. Move on. Buggy, the main class. McBride, man, he looked strong from the get-go, from starting from P15?
Dead last.
Dead last.
Actually, he started dead last, but technically Christian was dead last.
Yes.
Because he called a delay. I'm not sure what they called a delay for, but Christian started from pit lane.
Yep. Yeah, so we had Christian starting from pit lane. McBride starting from technically P15. Once McBride got through past the pit lane at exit, then Christian was allowed to get going. And man, that delay from Christian, man, that probably saved his race in the end, even though he had to start all the way down dead last as well. I think because he ended up qualifying after the semis, I think third from what I can recall.
Yeah, he finished the semi I was in. When I bombed out, I was second. He was third.
Yep.
So he finished second behind Alex. So I'm not sure where that put him overall. I think he was third on the grid, maybe slightly behind Zach Foster's semi time.
Yeah.
He actually unknowingly, by calling that delay, he actually saved Zach's final as well.
Yeah, right.
Because Scott, Zach's dad, and Kim Nusky, who was pitting for Zach as well, when he called the delay, they realized they had an exhaust gasket leaking.
Right.
So they had second. There you go. So Christian was second on the grid and then dead last. So absolutely mega drive from.
So shock piston snapped.
Yeah, Martin did tell me that. I'd had a few beers though. I was watching the main. That is like the most unreal thing ever because shock pistons never snap. But Scott was telling me that when they brought the cars in for the delay, he noticed that the exhaust gasket was leaking, and we're all at the back of the track watching, and like we saw a delay. We didn't know who called it, and we saw like 3 or 4 cars disappear, and we're like, who even called this? But Martin and Christian calling that delay to fix the shock piston obviously worked out for them, finishing P2, which is excellent. Worked out for Zach Foster as well, finishing P3. So they fixed their gasket, and then Zach drove a very, very good main.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, McBride obviously streaking out to, I would say, comfortable gap. I honestly think that McBride had a fair bit in reserve if he needed to. His average lap compared to his hot lap throughout the weekend was quite a ways off. So I think that if either Christian or Zach or anyone got closer to him, I think he could probably have stretched that gap a little bit further. I think he built up to a 20 to 25 second lead for majority of the race once he got in front. Christian Warherter.
That's good. I'm sure Kyle had a bit in reserve, but every national title that Kyle's won that I've been a part of, it's been like a lap, 2 lap, 3 lap win in lots of cases. He beat Stringer a couple of times by only a few seconds. So there was definitely some close ones, but I was very impressed. Christian, Zach, Craig, before he had his issue, they were maintaining a gap to Kyle. So I actually, as a spectator, I thought that the guys who weren't in first did a great job at keeping a pretty respectable gap, I think, to the leader. Yeah, he didn't put laps on the field like he would do in this situation with Alex out of the race. Yeah, he would put laps on the field. He didn't do that, so I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll touch on Alex's situation as well. Christian starting from dead last as well in the pit lane. We sort of watched as he was ticking off boxes as he came through. And you could see him sort of slowly but surely closing in on Zach Foster as well. But it took a long time. Like we were watching that gap slowly close down over a period of probably like 15, 20 minutes. From 10 seconds down to 8, through pit stops as well. Through pit stop cycles, we were watching it tick on down. And realistically,
very different strategy, Mitch. Very different strategy. Zach had a tire that was on. Christian went with the tire that they thought would come on halfway through the race, and that's exactly what happened. When like towards the end, when he was trying to pass Zach's car looked like it got a bit soft and hard to drive. And Christian's car looked like it was just coming on. So from a strategy standpoint for an hour race, the Woolhutters, they made the decision that we're going to have a car that's going to be good at the end or later in the race. And that's certainly how it played out.
Christian ended up getting to a 10-second gap over Zach towards the end of the race, but it was still close between them until the end. That's nothing realistically. A crash in the tabletop section and that would have relegated him back to third. So it was still tight between those guys. I know Craig Lawton down the order a bit. He was in that battle for the top 3 positions for quite some time as well. So he ended up breaking, he lost a nut off of his arm, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it was a lock nut that came off.
Yep. and he was having a blinder of a run out there. Easily could have made a podium position, I would say. I think it was looking pretty
Yeah.
likely, to be honest.
He was in a good spot for a podium. And
Yeah.
yeah, long races, stuff happens, unfortunately. He's a bit cut, the nut fell off, but he was in a great spot before that, man. Driving really well.
Yeah. Way down the order, obviously, Alex braking real early after just 7 laps into the race. And I think everyone was looking forward to a good battle between Kyle and Alex throughout this race. Alex had a great jump off the start, built up about a 5-6 second lead from pretty much lap 1. He straight out front. But yeah, broke really early. Did you end up finding out what happened to Alex's car? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was a servo.
It was servo again. So he had a couple servo issues.
2. Yeah, he had 2 servo issues throughout the weekend.
Yeah. Right.
Which, like, I spoke to him. We went out for tea Sunday night and had a chat with him there. It's pretty devastating for Alex because he's not only is he a good guy and his dad, I really like him, but he was in a pretty commanding spot when he went out. He had a good lead. Car looked good. He was driving really well. Had a servo die. They haven't had, like I spoke to him, they haven't had servo issues. So it's not like, it's not something that they regularly had to deal with. And he had 2 on the weekend, which sucks for him, man. Servos suck because you can't maintain them as such. Like, you can check the gears and you can re-grease, but from an electronic perspective, you can't maintain it. So you don't know when they're going to go. That sucks. But yeah, it was another servo issue. I'm not sure. Both of them died electronically, to my knowledge. Right, I'm not sure whether, like, Alex hadn't really done a deep dive into what the cause could be, or whether they were both the same issue, whether they were different issues. But yeah, that sucked for him. It was going to be a pretty monumental effort, I think, from Kyle to catch back up the way Alex was driving. And if he did, which I have no doubt he's capable of doing, it would have been a great race. Yeah. Because Kyle he made mistakes, more mistakes than I've seen him make in a long time. Probably goes to the testament of how difficult the track is to be super smooth on. But yeah, it was going to be a good race. So it sucks to see Alex go out early, but that is nitro racing, and stuff happens when you least want it to happen. So,
man, I'm waiting for the day we can have a really good battle between Kyle and Alex, and maybe Chuck and Caleb if if he finds a track that really suits him. Well, where are we next year? We're down in Canberra, I think, aren't we?
I believe it's Canberra.
Yeah. So,
which is a very happy hunting ground for Kyle. So
So I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can finally get a race that.
Cool.
It'd be awesome to see a race between Alex, Kyle, and Chuck Caleb in the mix. Even a couple of these other drivers, like Zach Foster. Once I think he's still got a fair bit of speed that he can find. He's still so young that he'll find more pace, he'll find more speed, and he'll find even more consistency. So I don't think he's too far off to be potentially battling with these guys as well.
No, he's just got to find the lap speed. Yep. And I said this before the event, that Scott and Zach wouldn't be angry at me saying that he's not the best qualifier.
Yep.
But he's a great mains driver.
Correct. Yeah.
And which is odd because that's the other way around normally for kids of his age. Normally they're blazingly fast but inconsistent. Zach's the other way around. Very consistent, also very fast. He's just got to find a little bit of lap speed and he would be right there because his consistency is very good. Impressively good. He drove a great main in a very tough track, tough surface, all that. So yeah, I think only in the future will he go better. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in another year. Canberra will be fun. Yeah,
for sure. Jacko, the old wacko Jacko, came out strong for the final with a Techno. So highest placing Techno driver for Nitro Buggy. Bit anonymous as well, I would say. He was there or thereabouts, but he sort of only really popped up into race calling sort of side of things. I didn't even notice he was there until towards the end of the race, to be honest.
Yeah, he wasn't super stoked with his event through qualifying, but go and chuck him in a main, and look at him, P5, P4,
P4, yeah,
P4. Got to be happy with that at the Nationals.
Yeah, No, exactly right. I'm pretty sure that would have to be his best nationals result, surely.
I would say so. I can't remember
Yeah.
Jacko finishing higher than that. So
No.
yeah, really good effort.
Yeah. Rounding out top 5 would be Zach Ryan. So pretty much first the old boys having a really good run out there. Zach's another one that sort of he surprises me on how consistently quick he is. Once again, he's another Darren Perry type. He always tends to be there or thereabouts when it comes to the finals. I'd say a bit of an underdog in a lot of ways. You just don't expect him to be as quick as what he ends up being, or at least from my standpoint, he just turns up and he's quick. So, yeah, I guess it's a track that suits him as well in a way.
He's if you speak to Zach, he's devastated because his car was not very good.
Yeah, right.
These are his words. The car was not very good. Too hard to drive, and he said to me today, I crashed every 4 laps. So, which is not Zach Ryan's spec. He's normally very fault free. Like you said, very consistent. So, he's not stoked with the way the car was in the main and the result overall. Like he would have liked to have been higher. If his car was a bit easier to drive, I'm sure he would have been.
Yeah, very valid as well. Definitely a track that's sort of very similar to Pine Hills in a lot of ways. Possibly, or definitely a little bit higher grip level. Yeah. But skill-wise or like toughness of the track, I'd say quite relative in a lot of ways as well. Possibly Pine Hills a little bit easier at the moment, but previous years Pine Hills has been just as tricky, if not a lot trickier. So
we took a lot of inspiration from Pine Hills, honestly, in this track.
Yep.
But how difficult Zach builds those tracks. He builds, lots of tabletops, which make it easy for guys to jump. But he builds a lot of like flowing corners, a lot of tricky jump landers, jumps out of corners, things that reward accuracy again. So, yeah, he would have liked to be higher. I'm sure we'll see him in Manila shortly do very well. Yeah. And I'm sure he'll do very well at ABC, the same as Jacko being their home track. I'm sure they'll do quite well. So,
yeah, I have no doubt. Onwards and to Aaron Dexter coming home P6 now. I think you said that he had some issues flamed out at least.
Ran out of fuel. Yeah, ran out of fuel, which sucks for Aaron. Normally his stuff's pretty dialed. So, again, another guy who probably, in his own words, didn't really get the result he wanted. Still a pretty good result overall, to be honest. Tough field, tough track. But, without running out of fuel, I think you would have seen him on the podium.
Yeah. No, for sure. Do you know? Okay, this is going to be a tough one to explain. Mr. No Name Podcast. I've forgotten his name. Keenan. He's given Aaron Dexter a nickname of a rare animal from Tasmania. Do you know anything about that? I saw him post. He shared the reel I put up from
thylacine, which is the name for the Tasmanian tiger, but I've got no idea why. I think they just think that that's like. Yeah, I don't know. It's because we're Australian. Maybe it's hilarious.
I saw him share it, and he put that as the tagline. I was like, "Is there some sort of meaning behind this? Like, surely someone knows about it."
I've never seen a Tasmanian tiger in the wild, but not once in the photos do they look like gingers. So that's like Aaron Dexter's a pretty ginger guy. So I wouldn't say the thylacine is very accurate, but that's his name for him because he's Australian, I suppose.
I'm gonna have to message Keenan later on and ask him.
Figure out where that came from.
Yeah. I'll come back in the next podcast and we'll work it out. Felix once again after a good run in the Truggy coming home P7 and buggy. Have a feeling he probably would have liked to been a little bit higher as well, but nonetheless, pretty good result.
Yeah, good effort. I think everyone who made the main, pretty good effort.
Yeah, Fabio Silvi, P8. Piggott P9, and rounding out top 10 was the old boy Andrew Gillett. So he had a great run as well.
Yeah, I think he'd be pretty stoked. He was stoked to make the main. Yeah. That was his first goal, and then a top 10 for a guy that doesn't race very much. It's a pretty good effort.
Yeah. No, so that just about wraps up for results and stuff. Obviously, we talked about Alex having his issues before. Not long after. Well, actually, a fair way after, Caleb Noble had some issues as well. Did you find out what issues Caleb ended up having?
I have no idea what went wrong
So
with Caleb.
so from what I remember, he went over the crossover section and had a monumental stack. I think he like did a wheelie off the rope, from what I can remember. I'm pretty sure we have it on camera as well. Did a wheel stand off the rope and ended up going over the crossover into like almost a half front flip, landing directly on the motor. So I'm guessing the motor's probably moved or damaged it in a certain way.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the issue was, but yeah, sucks for Caleb. Obviously, he was right in the mix again for
Yeah.
a
A
podium.
good
So
result. Yeah, a really
there
good
was
result.
there was a mega battle there for that those podium spots.
Yeah.
With Zach was pretty clear early on, and then behind him was just a gigantic battle. Craig, Caleb, Christian. So yeah, we got robbed a little bit of probably a race for that third and second spot. But again, it's a tough finishing nitro races is just plain tough. So
Yeah, it's a marathon.
sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. You got to
There we
live
go.
with it. Come back next time and give it a go.
Caleb clutch issue. I'd say that was spurred on from that crash because it happened within about a lap and a half after that crash, and it
I feel your pain.
yeah. But yeah, I remember saying it on stream, like I'm surprised the car's still running after that because it was a direct hit on fast part of the track onto the knuckle of the landing zone directly onto the motor. So
Yeah,
I was surprised I was surprised it kept running after that at all. But yeah, it didn't last too much longer.
Well, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's a marathon, man. It is a proper marathon than nitro buggy. But yeah. So that wraps up our results when it comes to the RCRA National Titles down at Southern Districts Model Car Club. Now, overall, like, how did you feel from the event?
Yeah, we were pretty happy as a committee. It's a big undertaking. Obviously, we didn't have a ton of time. There was committee changeover only a couple of months before the event, so there was a lot to organise. From a perspective that I've been around a while. Scott Foster's been around a while. Tim's been around a while. Joel's only been racing for 2 or 3 years, so for him to take on that president's position was a lot, really. For him, Dan Morgan took on the track manager position, and between him and Joel, the bulk of the track work was done by those two. There was certainly helpers out there. I went out there and helped out. We had a lot of members help out, which was fantastic. But those boys put in a lot of hours and delivered a track that the people I speak to, the conversations I've had, I even had Martin call me up a week ago just to say thank you. Not just to me, but to pass on to the committee for a good event. Everyone I've spoken to has had good words to say about the event as a whole. There were certainly things we could do better, which as a committee, our first shot at it was the biggest event we kind of hold. So there's definitely things we think we could do better, but most of the things were done quite well. I think everyone had a good time. The track was good. Certainly a track that whoever won the national championships in each classes was very deserving. I think everyone had a good time. So yeah, we're happy. I'm glad it's over in a lot of ways because there's a lot of stress, a lot of organisation to kind of pull it together, and we don't have a lot of permanent facility, as everyone who went there would have seen. Everything's bought in. So for all that to work pretty well, did a good job. The raffle went really well. The staff in the canteen did a great job. They were there 6 a.m. cooking bacon, eggs, most of the time not finishing till sort of 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Me, Dan, and Joel were at the track each night till dark. Most nights were at dark, just making sure the track's in a good condition, carpet's getting changed, so that the race meet can flow well. You did a great job in commentary. Tony did a great job. Timmy G did a great job. Mark Ruder, who isn't a member of the committee this year, but was previously, he did an excellent job in the canteen, managing that, making coffees. So big shout out to all of our members, helpers, partners, friends, family who helped out in the canteen and with running the event. John Canaris did a good job in scrutineering Saturday and Sunday. So I think overall was a good event. Everyone had a good time. The racing was fun. The track was fun. I don't know if you can ask for a lot more. There's certainly things from a committee standpoint we feel like we could have done a better job on. But for what we were presented with, I think we pulled it off pretty well. Everyone
Yep.
had a good time, and we come racing to have a good time and hang out with our friends, and we got to do that. So we're
Yeah.
quite happy.
For
Hopefully,
one
to
thing,
get people coming back too. Like
Yep.
that's a big thing we wanted, is to present a quality track, which is first and foremost the most important thing. Is the track fun? Is it good? Did people have a good time driving on it? That's what entices people to come back and race at our club, which is what we
Yep.
wanted. And the feedback I've had is that people can't wait to come back. So
yeah,
I'm excited. And our club members and our locals get a track that's pretty A-level
Yep.
to race on at club days and practice on. I know there's been a ton of people out there practicing since the event finished. So it's good to see. It's good for racing in SA. It's good for our members. We get a more technical track than we've had previously. One that will breed, I think, people's skills. And certainly improve the standard of driving for our local races, having something that's more technical and difficult to what we want. Sorry, just dropped out. What we want to have happen is a track that's technical. It's not push those boundaries. You have opportunities to work on timing and stuff. And so I think it went well, mate. We're pretty happy.
Yeah, we were losing you a little bit again then, so your internet might be dropping. Nonetheless, a couple of
flat, so
we're trying to wrap it up quick.
Yeah.
A couple of things to add on to that as well. Actually, Tim mentioned it earlier. How good were the kids doing the footage? Yeah, we didn't have the full RC Race media crew there. Tony was there doing the interviews and sort of helping these two guys out that had never done anything motorsport related before, let alone something that is such a niche motorsport, and a motorsport that if anyone's tried to video a remote controlled car will find out very, very quickly how tough it is, and to do that for 8 to 12 hours on end. They did an awesome job. It was sort of a last minute sort of fix up through RCRA, through the club and that sort of side of things to get the guys to do the media.
That's actually that was all Joel.
Yeah, right. Joel did that.
Took it upon himself, to go and seek out someone to do the streaming. Like said, they hadn't done RC. The Darcy, who was kind of in charge of it, had a few good chats with him. He's done a film degree, and so he's done heaps of streaming, but he'd never done RC. So from a technical standpoint, he said that it wasn't a ton different to what he's done before, but certainly the actual event itself and filming the cars is no easy feat. So they did a great job. The streaming certainly adds a lot to the overall event. Being able to go rewatch that, and then that's a memory that we have forever. We can go back and rewatch that whenever we want. And they did a really, really good job overall. From top to bottom, it was a lot of effort and did a really good job. Jamie Vuk, who's on our committee, is kind of our tech guy. He put a lot of work in prior to the event, setting up internet at the track, setting up monitors, which we didn't have previously, working with not only Tony, but also Darcy and the other guy doing streaming. I forget the other guy's name. I probably should remember that. But setting up the infrastructure so we could go and deliver on that. So it worked out really well. We'll only be better for it. And Darcy's pretty keen to do some more streaming. So gives us an option as a club, I think, having someone local, like the RC Race Media guys do a phenomenal job. Every event I've been to that they've done has been top class. Darcy and that were very stoked with what they ended up delivering. But it's cool because it gives us an option locally to be able to stream maybe a state title. So, without having to get guys traveling in. So Baxter, that was his name. Did a great job. So it was awesome. It was good having you and Tony there too, that have been at the the most recent big events that have been streamed, to add that level of professionalism. The sport, what a stream looks like and how to deliver on that, especially Tony coverage in the pits and the interviews. It just wouldn't be the same without guys like that spending their time to come and do that. Like the interviews for me they're almost the most enjoyable thing. You get to speak to not only the Kyle McBrides and Alex Benadzik, but you get to chat to every single heat, the race winner, first, second, third. Tony tried to cover almost every driver that he could get throughout the weekend to get a perspective and a comment. And I think it's cool. RC racing is far more than just the top guys. It's everyone who's entered and is part of the hobby got
Yeah.
to have their 5 minutes of camera time, which was cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to catching up with them pretty soon again. But the boys did really well. Very impressed at how quickly they adapted to what is a very niche market in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. Good job.
There was one more thing that I was going to bring up, completely forgotten. So hopefully it wasn't too important. Nonetheless, a massive weekend. That pretty much wraps up everything that I can think of talking about when it comes to the Nationals. As you mentioned there, the committee's done a massive effort sort of to get the track ready, to organize everything, in advance. And I've been part of committees in the past, and just to run a state titles, it's a lot of man hours. So to run a Nationals, it's just on another level. So big ups to the committee there. All the helping hands, whether it be on the track, as you mentioned before, canteen, Tim helping the mic, Tony, obviously media, as well as Baxter and Dan, I've forgotten already.
It was good. I think also, just from a committee standpoint, we had great help from our members. There was members there that weren't racing, that Sunday after racing were helping clean up rubbish, helping us pack up cords. The racers did a really good job packing up their tables. A little bit left to be desired with the rubbish, but we got through that with some help from people that weren't even racing, and even through the event, committee members, we had committee members volunteer marshalling throughout the event. I volunteer marshaled in Maine. Timmy was out there. Joel got out there. Dan got out there to volunteer marshal. So just to try and keep things ticking along, it was a big effort from everyone involved. So I'm glad everyone had a good time. That was what we wanted to deliver, was a good event. Everyone had a good time, and a lot of positive words, which for us as a club, people saying they had a good time was the cherry on top of the cake. That's all we wanted to hear. Have a good time, have fun. We're racing toy cars. It's not for sheep stations. No one's getting paid. We're all there donating hours to kind of have a good time. So it went well, man.
No, it did go well. All right, we'll start to wrap this up. It was meant to be a short stream. I was expecting maybe an hour and a half.
Rookie.
Nearly 3 hours later. But overall, massive thank you for all the work you've done. Obviously, Joel's done a huge amount of work on the last side of things. I'm not going to name them all off, but everyone that helped out and stuff, mammoth effort. Appreciate it all. Results and stuff, I think, as we covered before, a lot of people that we expected to be on top were at the top, and a couple of people that, a couple of unfortunate events and a bit of nitro racing coming out, and that, just happens. Overall, really good fun. Any final words, Andrew?
No, man, we covered it all, mate.
We covered it all.
Thanks for having me on again. It's been good. It was a good pre-event. We did a lot of work, I suppose, pumping the raffle. The club only has so many avenues to make revenue.
Yep.
The raffle is one of those. Entry fees is obviously one. We were lucky enough to have the council help us out with some grants, which covered a bit. And then the canteen is the last one. So the canteen's run by volunteers. We did quite well out of that, which was awesome. We did really well out of the raffle, which was fantastic. And the entry fees, we got a good number of people racing. So as a club, we haven't quite finished the profit loss chart, but we certainly came out in front. We held a good event, end up with a good track, and a lot of work went in, but it was worth it. So very happy, mate. It was good to have you down. Can we have someone else? Yes, Tim, you feel free to come on, mate. You're a commentator extraordinaire. So head yourself on, mate. I can't believe you're still watching. I work with Tim, so I've just seen him for 8 hours at work, and he's watching me for another 3 hours on the stream.
All right. This is likely. No, I'm busy.
Yeah. He umpires AFL.
Umpires AFL. What does he not do? Tell me what he does not do.
He doesn't really work on his son's car enough, which he could do.
Yeah. Okay.
But other than that, he's a pretty busy guy. So
yeah,
he does a good job.
I'm not even going to put his next comment up because I can tell he's already writing back. I'm not going to give him a chance to respond.
Cut him off there.
Yeah, you're done, Tim. No more. Alrighty, guys, we're wrapping this thing up. Thank you very much, Anne, for jumping on again for over 2 hours. Had you on early because once again I mixed up the times. But I really appreciate you jumping on again, mate. You do a lot for our hobby. Thanks, mate.
No worries, dude. Happy to join you. Happy to come back whenever you want me to do a 3-hour podcast.
No more.
All
I need
right,
to go
mate.
to sleep one of these days. All right, mate. We'll see you later.
See you, Mitch. Take it easy.
Oh, we're huge again. And there we go. Yeah, so big ups to the committee down at Southern Districts, everyone involved. Yeah, Daniel Morgan chucked it up there. Thanks to everyone. No, travel media, volunteers. Was an epic event. Exactly. Sums it up pretty much perfectly. Events coming up as we talked with Jeno earlier. So a massive thanks to Jeno for coming on board and having a bit of a chat about the Chargers event coming up, the Truck and Outlaw event. If you haven't signed up to that already, make sure you jump on, sign up to it. It's going to be an awesome event. I'm going to be there. A little bit of a sidetrack as well. I am going to be down in Sydney for the New South Wales titles. As long as there isn't rain, realistically, I will definitely be there. All paid up tonight. If you haven't paid, make sure you do pay, because I'm pretty sure payments and entries close tonight. If you don't pay by tonight, you'll be getting charged extra. And that's up to the club whether they allow any extra entries after tonight. So make sure you do pay and enter if you haven't already. So yeah, anyone that's going down to Sydney next weekend, we'll see you down there. I'm looking forward to doing a bit of racing myself. I'm not going to be on the mic, I don't think, at all. I believe Peter Cooper is going to be jumping on the mic for that one. I know he's another A-star race caller as well, so it'll be great to see Peter Cooper on the mic. I might try to steal a mic off of him once or twice at most. But yeah, no, looking forward to a good race event down there. I'm sure I'll have a couple of videos on Mitch on the Mic on the Facebook page for anyone looking for info about that. Hills RC is a club, the Facebook page to check out for information as that comes through. And then backing that up with the Chargers Truck and Outlaw event. So it's a couple of big weeks coming up. So keep an eye on the Facebook page. If you haven't already, if you are still sticking around at the moment, if you haven't already, like, share, comment, anything that I post, it'll always help. I really do appreciate all the feedback that I receive, good, bad, whatever it is, all the comments and stuff throughout the stream as well. It really helps out the stream. So other than that, I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you very much for joining us for this long stream. Once again, was meant to be an hour and a half or something nice and short, because I've been up since 3 a.m. But it turns out to be an almost 3-hour stream. Typical. Started off with a bang, mic on mute, but we'll end it strong. Nonetheless, guys, we'll see you in the next one, if not beforehand, down in Sydney or wherever you see me before then. We'll see you later, guys.